Country living homes epitomize charm and tranquility, each telling a tale of rustic elegance and timeless comfort. Today, we tour 4 spaces that embrace the style: a cottage in North Carolina defined by vintage decor, a European chateau-inspired home in Pennsylvania, a 35-acre property in Georgia, and an antique-filled colonial home in Indiana. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. It's Margot. Welcome to my home in North Carolina. I'm so excited to have you here. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Margot Roth, and I am a small business owner in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and this is my home. So Eric and I, my husband and I, have lived here for going on 3 years this summer, I believe. We bought it at a time when there was no other houses on the market, and we were really, really lucky to find this house. I think a lot of other people didn't come look at the house because it actually only has 1 bathroom. So it's quite a small house. I would say a cottage style house. We're in a historic neighborhood that's located kind of at the heart of the town that we live in, which is Winston-Salem. The house is adorable. It has great space inside. My personal style is very English, country and English cottage, so the overall vibes of the house lend really well to that. We're the second owners to ever have this house, actually, which is really exciting. The first owners built it and they lived in it. First the parents did, then their children did, and then Eric and I were the second family to ever own the house, which is really incredible. They did a great job of maintaining it. So the bathroom, the 1 bathroom that was there, was really dated. The kitchen was dated. They had done a small renovation on it in like the early 2000s, so it wasn't stylistically my style, but we just appreciated so much how they took really, really great care of the house. But when we moved in, all of the walls were painted gray. There was no color in the house, no real there wasn't anything that was helping it, just like giving it more character and the kind of charm that it deserved. So a lot of what we did was uncovering original features, like trying to maintain the hardware that was used, the picture molding, and all of those things. And then also bringing in my personal design style, which, like I said, is very English, and adding in a lot of color, a lot of texture, lots and lots of fabrics and prints. And then we also fully redid the bathroom and the kitchen as well. Welcome to the entryway of our home. It's more of a makeshift entryway than a traditional entryway because we have this really large, long room right here. So we kind of wanted to create a space that felt like when you were walking in from the front door, you had a little bit of an entryway, kind of introductory space to take off your shoes, hang up your coat, and then transition into the living room. As I have kind of indicated, I really love obviously using antiques in my decor, but I think even more special than that is using antiques that are heirloom pieces from your family. So this coat rack was actually built by my great-grandfather, and I was lucky enough to kind of inherit it down from my dad. We used to have it in my childhood house growing up, and then now I get to have it here, so that's really special. But it's kind of just a place to hang up your coat, put your shoes. I have a bunch of boots here because we have a backyard full of farm animals, and we need to put on our boots a lot of times to go out there and kind of clean out their pens and things. So, little makeshift entryway. And as you come in, I always like to have a mirror that is facing the light source so that the room feels bigger and brighter. And I also think it's kind of nice to provide a mirror for your guests upon entering a new house, so that if someone wants to like check their hair or something, they can do that. So we have this really beautiful antique gilded mirror, as well as another family piece. This was also from my dad's side of the family, and I'm not exactly sure who it belonged to originally, but we had it in a family property for a while, and then they were moving things out and kind of asking people who wants what, and I took it because I just love having antique pieces, especially if they were in our family. And besides that, we just have a lot of art, as you can see from, moving into the living room space as well. We have tons and tons of art that I've collected over the years. A lot of, not as many originals as I would like, a lot of prints, which is traditionally what you find more when you're thrifting and vintage hunting. But this space has worked really well for us, kind of cutting up the room and making a smaller little entry space so that you can welcome your guests in. I believe that the house was built in the early 1920s. I'm not exactly positive on the date. I think my husband is saying that it was built in 1924. So that would make it like exactly 100 years old, which is pretty amazing. So the house itself isn't, when you would look at it online or maybe on paper, it wouldn't seem huge because it's technically only 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. I like a smaller house in general, and I tend to like a house that isn't open concept either, so it was perfect for us in that way. But each of the rooms individually is a really great size, particularly the living room, which is where we're filming right now. It's a great spacious room, tons of natural light. The house has all of these amazing historical original features like tall ceilings, picture molding, really large cased molding around all of the doors and the windows. So I feel like it kind of punches above its weight in terms of size with all of the style and the charm that it brings. So coming this way into the living room, which is really just the larger extension of this whole room, we used this couch to kind of create the block that separates the 2 different spaces. And then I filled in the rest with other furniture. I'm sure, as you can see, I am definitely a maximalist in the way that I like to decorate. I especially have tons of different collections of certain items. So I have all of these little ceramic dog figurines. Eric and I have 4 dogs in real life, and I just obviously love animals. So I've collected these little ceramic figurines and filled it in. It's very maximalist, very layered, which I've said before is kind of my design style. And then I think helping with the cottage aesthetic is these baskets. So I've added in a lot of texture to this space by using baskets, the wreath, and kind of natural fibers and textures like that as well. I always like to have fresh flowers in the room. I find a ton of great fresh flower deals at Trader Joe's. That's a pro tip if you're wondering. But I love having fresh flowers in my space. And then you'll probably notice I also have so many books. I have stacks and stacks of design books that I've collected over the years. And I really do read and flip through these all the time. Being online these days, I think we see a lot of the same images recycled over and over and over again. And so it can be kind of amazing to go back and look at design books from like the 90s and the early 2000s, like this one, and get inspiration from these books where you're kind of seeing images that you wouldn't see on social media. So that's really refreshing. And then as we move this way, I just have some really cozy chairs. The whole theme, I think, when I'm decorating is to be comfortable and have people feel comfortable and cozy, like they can come in and sit down and read a book or watch a show. So I love having these really plush, squashy English style armchairs because it creates a really cozy environment for guests. I also have this chaise lounge right here, which is actually one of my most asked about pieces. But like with most of the decor in my house, it's thrifted or antiqued or collected over the years. I don't have a lot of things that are from box stores or bought new. And originally that was because when Eric and I first started furnishing our home, we legitimately couldn't afford to buy new furniture online. It's just so expensive. So as I started thrifting pieces, I found that those items that were antique or vintage were oftentimes a way lower price point, so much more accessible, and then way, way higher quality. So we've just enjoyed using vintage pieces. They're also amazing because they're completely unique to your space. This is kind of our secret hiding spot. So we do have a TV. We just have one TV in the house because Eric and I both love to watch movies and sports. So we have our TV hidden away in this antique English cabinet. This is like a English pine cabinet, most likely from the, oh gosh, like I don't know, it's several hundred years old, imported here from England. So I love that about it. And we've just kind of decorated it with various knickknacks and collectibles. But this room has just really provided an amazing, cozy, comfortable space where we can have people over and gather, and it feels, it just feels so cozy. I love this room so much. When we first moved in, the fireplace was, I believe it was not brick. So they had already painted over it in a white. I think it was just like a plain white, the same color as the trim. I would have loved for it to have been the original brick, but because it was already painted, I knew I kind of wanted to do something really special with it. And I finally decided to do a high gloss paint. It's a really almost like a lacquered finish, which is kind of, it gives it a little bit of a historical feel, a little bit English, a little bit stately feel. And we went with a paint color from Benjamin Williams' historic Williamsburg collection because we wanted something that felt like it was keeping in the time period of the house, kind of keeping with the time period of the rest of my decor. I wanted a blue color, but I didn't want it to be too bright or aggressive. So this really ended up being the perfect paint color. And I will say, when I first painted it, I had a little bit of a panic for like the first hour after painting it because it was such a big transition. But now I couldn't be happier. I'm so pleased with the way it turned out. And everybody mentions it. Everyone's like, oh, I love your fireplace. I love the blue. So it's been a really fun statement for this room. That's another question I get a lot, is if the fireplace is working, because obviously we have all these baskets here, which would be a huge fire hazard. So no, the fireplace does not work. It was actually originally a coal burning fireplace, and I am not sure on the history of that. My dream would be for it to be a wood burning stove or a wood burning fireplace, but it's just not set up for that. So eventually we might try and remove what's currently in there and maybe transition it to a wood burning fireplace. But as it stands right now, it does not work. It sadly just looks beautiful in the space. Yeah, it's obvious that I'm a maximalist. It's obvious that I love decorating with tons and tons of prints and textures and different fabrics. And to some people, I think it probably would be overwhelming. It would be too much color or too much pattern or too much texture. But for me personally, I think that the meshing of all of these different fabrics and textures and patterns really gives it a cozy, collected feel that's not too formal. As you can see, none of my furniture is technically matching. Nothing is from a set that you would buy at the store. And I think that creates such a cozy, homey feel where it looks like the home has been collected and gathered over so many years. I do think to help with the cohesiveness, it's nice to maybe pick a few colors that you're using that are bolder. Like I have some red accents, and then I'm using a lot of tans and browns and earth tones, and then adding in a few pops of brighter colors here and there. But I love using an earth tone. And I think the other thing that's helped with this space staying peaceful in a way despite everything going on is that the walls are actually painted white, which I traditionally am not someone that loves a white wall. I like to paint walls in colors. I love wallpapers, but for this space in particular, having the white walls gives all of the furniture, all of the decor, all of the pieces space and room to kind of breathe and speak for themselves, so that you're not then on top of that distracted by a wall color or a wallpaper in this particular room. This mirror I would consider to be one of my most prized possessions. I actually bought it off of a friend who found it, believe it or not, in a local thrift store. It's originally from, and now I'm not going to remember this, but it's from a store. I want to say it's from Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, and they used it as a dressing room mirror back in like the 90s. And then a woman had it, I think she was the designer for them, had it in her house for a really long time, and then just decided to donate it. And my friend very luckily happened to be in the thrift store the day that she donated it and immediately snapped it up. And she used it for a while, but it wasn't meshing with her decor style. So I immediately, when she was selling it, was like, I want to buy this. And it's moved with us from our previous house to this house. And that was one of the most treacherous moments, was moving this in the back of the truck and just praying that it wouldn't get broken. But it's survived, and I really love it. It's been a really special piece to have, and it adds a ton of depth and light to this room. I do tend to decorate a lot with bows. I like to add bows to everything. I've toned it back a lot in the past few years and started to kind of add them just more tastefully here and there. But as you can see, I like to add a bow as a little pop of color to what would normally be a more regular piece of decor. I think it adds a little something fun. And to be honest, a lot of times I add them in for the holidays and then I just forget to take them off. And so they kind of become just a part of the everyday decor. And next, if you'll follow me, we will head into the dining room. My husband and I came to see it together because we own businesses together and we do pretty much everything together, and we restored this house together as well. So when we both came to see it, I think we both immediately knew that it was a perfect house for us. It's the first house that we've ever owned. We're really lucky to own a house as young people. I feel like that's a big privilege these days, to be a young person and be able to own your own home. And so we were just so excited to be able to have something that was ours. We had rented for so many years before that. And it was really special to be able to own a house as beautiful as this and fully put our own handprint on it and kind of make it exactly the way that we wanted it to be. And here we are in the dining room. It's not a very far transition. And I recently wallpapered this room. So this is the first room that you are seeing that has wallpaper, which is one of my great passions. I've used wallpaper for multiple rooms in this house that you'll see later, but we started off, this was the first room that we did, and I chose this really pretty red and cream wallpaper. I believe it's actually from Spoonflower, and we had it wallpapered, and it took about a day and a half, not that long, and we were just so thrilled with the way it turned out. I love that it kind of adds this very cheery, happy vibe to this space. This room in particular doesn't get amazing light throughout the whole day, so I wanted to do something that made it feel happy and bright throughout the whole day. And this piece right here is really special because this is another piece actually from my dad's side of the family, and it was my great grandmother's, I believe. And interestingly enough, it was built by hand. They built it in high school wood class, which is crazy to me because that's something that I would have never done in high school. But it's a really special piece. I love the legs. I love how delicate they are. And we have just used it as a bar because I do believe that every dining room should have a nice little bar set up for your guests to use. We have a lot of different little tools that I've collected over the years. I actually don't drink, but Eric loves to make cocktails for people and enjoy them with people. So this is a really fun space for him. He's collected some different books over the years too about wine and cocktail making. Obviously, being bar owners, we do like to learn a lot about different alcohols and wines and things like that. So this is kind of a fun little area to showcase that. And as we move this way, you will see another one of my most prized furniture possessions. This is really a second piece, really similar to the first one that I showed you that had the TV in it, but it's an 18th century English pine cupboard, and it has these incredible windows or doors that have these little window panes. And I love, love, love the way that it looks. I love that it can showcase my trinkets and my china. This is a china that I actually inherited from my grandmother, and she had it for a really long time, was moving house, didn't have space to keep it, so she gave it to me. And it's been really special to be able to display that and have that in my home and use it. And then the other nice thing about this is that there's tons of space underneath to use as storage, to just throw a bunch of stuff in, because it is not always nice and neat and tidy in here. So I love these big drawers. I can keep napkins, fancy silverware, things like that inside of these drawers. In terms of giving your home a soul and making it feel very personable and specific to your tastes, I think a lot of that has to do with following exactly your own design style. Not everyone is going to like the same things, and I think with social media these days, we can get really trapped into following really specific trends and micro trends that only last a certain number of months. So I think kind of exploring and looking back at what you've always loved and creating your own design style is a huge part of making your house feel soulful and personable. I also more recently have kind of adopted this philosophy of not saving anything for best. Because I collect so many antiques, a lot of these things are really important to me. It's, china that I won't be able to ever find again, or things that seem very precious. But if we were to store them away and never use them, I think that takes away the value and kind of the point of having these nice things. So I really like to use china and my best dishes for everyday things, and just keep all of your your best things out and use them. I think that's a huge part of it. And then also displaying personal items. I've also recently started to frame more photographs and personal pictures and save notes. There's a lot of British designers that I admire that are really good at taking pieces or artifacts from daily life, like a note that a loved one wrote you, and framing it and using it as a piece of art in your home. And I just love that idea, and I think it adds a lot of character. And then I would love to talk to you guys about the table. So this actually was a recent change. We had a large, long table in here for a while, but it was just kind of clogging up this space, and it didn't feel like the flow was super great. You can see we have these two large openings on either side of this room, and it felt like it was kind of cutting off the flow. So I love a traditional dining room. I love having it be separate from the kitchen. I love the feeling of setting a table and having this special room where you come in and you eat dinner with people. Eric and I love to cook. We love to host. So I set up the table as if I was hosting you for a tea party, which I have done. I love to have people over and kind of set things up really, really nice for them. There is nothing more special, I think, than going over to a family member's house or a friend's house and they've cooked a meal for you, and you're not just eating it on their kitchen island, but they've set a really beautiful table, lit some candles, fresh flowers. It adds such a special vibe, and it makes the guests feel really important, which I love to do. So we're very big into hosting, and this has been a fun way for me to kind of play with that, is setting these tablescapes. I love to use a mixture of different china patterns, textiles, things that did not come together as a set. I think it makes it feel a little more cottagey and eclectic. So you can see here I have some blue china that I thrifted at an estate sale a while ago. And then I've mixed that in with other different pieces of china, teacups that I've collected over the years. These French linen napkins I bought from a vintage store online. I also have like this vase is antique. Honestly, every single thing on the table is either vintage or antique, including these adorable little egg cups. And these are actually eggs from our chickens. They lay very frequently, so we're always trying to think of new ways to eat eggs because we have so many of them. And then these placemats are actually something that I designed and used that vintage fabric to create the pattern and style and design and put them on my website, which is House of Margot, and I sell them as a set. And I've actually mixed and matched them here. So I've used two different stripes, but I have this red stripe and then I have this kind of fun spring blue stripe as well. I get asked really often online about these chairs. I get asked all the time about the color. What color is it? Did I paint them myself? And sadly, I have no idea what color they are. I did not paint them myself. I was fortunate enough to find them on Facebook Marketplace as a set. There's actually 8 of them all together, so you'll kind of see them scattered throughout my house because there's not room for them to all sit at the table. But they came with these incredible down-filled cushions in this striped pattern. I love it so much. I love having the green in here. I think it's really unexpected, but it works incredibly well in this space, and it makes it feel, it's just another thing that makes it feel kind of bright and happy. And then last thing in this room I will talk to you about is my piano. So I am not a prolific piano player by any means, but I first started taking lessons when I was in elementary school. I continued on throughout high school, and then when I was in college, I studied vocal performance. So I kind of gave up the piano playing, but I still love music. And from time to time, I still play and write a little bit. So this is something that was super important for me to have in our house, especially as we're getting ready to have our first kid. I would love to instill in them a love for music and have them play the piano if they want to, and kind of learn that as well. It's something that I've loved so much. I think it's really important, well, just for me personally, when designing a house, to kind of have a theme throughout in terms of color scheme. And so the main colors that I've used, and I think my friends would probably say are like my signature colors, are blue, like a French country blue, a rusty red, and then lots and lots of browns and creams. So I definitely think that you can kind of tell it's my design or my style when you see those colors, as well as tons and tons of pattern. I love pattern. My house, I think to some people would seem chaotic because of all of the patterns that I use. Florals, plaids, tartans, but to me that's really what I love. I love mixing things, and layering is a huge outlet for me in terms of design. I think I get a lot of that from the English traditional style, but layering items, particularly antiques, on top of each other is a real trademark of how I like to design. And as we move through the dining room, we come into this area, which I like to call the Butler's Pantry. We recently redid our kitchen, and this is kind of an extension of that. We redid the kitchen in February of this year, so very recently, just a few months ago. And my husband and I did all of the work ourselves. It was quite an adventure, but I am super impressed with him and his ability to just do the cabinetry and everything like that. So we added in this floor-to-ceiling shelving. At first, when we were redoing the kitchen, we contemplated knocking down the wall that separates this little breakfast nook area and the kitchen. A lot of older traditional homes will have a breakfast nook and then a kitchen. So we toyed with the idea of knocking it down, and we decided to keep it and turn it into a Butler's Pantry because it felt more authentic to the way that the house was built. And like I said before, I really do love spaces being individualized and not being completely open concept, so we kind of wanted to keep with that. We painted all of the cabinetry in Farrow and Ball hay, which is this really nice creamy yellow color. And then all of the hardware is an unlacquered brass hardware that we bought online and installed. And then this was kind of pieced together. So a space for all of my cookbooks. Eric and I both love to cook. I particularly like to bake, and he is an amazing cook. We also own a coffee shop, and so I would say we're a little bit of coffee fiends, especially my husband. He loves coffee, and so he has his coffee maker here. We have some more utilitarian items up on this counter, as well as a beverage fridge. And then I got to kind of play around with decor with these two shelves, and I was able to display a lot of my stoneware that I collect. And then we added this little brass rail for coffee cups, which is so adorable. And these shelves, interestingly, we actually found the wood in the basement of this house. They were original joists for the house that had been discarded at some point along the line and were really in disrepair. And we took them to a local mill and had them replaned, and found out that they were this really beautiful yellow pine, and we wanted to use them in the space, particularly because they were already part of the house. And I made sure that when we hung them, we put the sides that had all these imperfections facing out, because I just love the character that it gives, and I really wanted to be able to see those imperfections and see how it was something that was originally part of this house to begin with. We painted the cabinetry ourselves, which was quite a tedious process. We chose the color Hay by Farrow and Ball, which is a really lovely yellow that has a lot of creamy undertones. It's a very mustardy color, and I just love it in the space. I think it's really happy without being overly aggressive. This is actually really special because it's another original feature of the house. And if we had taken out this wall, we would have had to remove this little cabinet, which to me would have been sad because I love keeping and highlighting as many of the original features as possible. And a really cool thing is actually this latch is the original style and design of the latches that they had. They had unlacquered brass latches originally on this cabinet. And so I took that latch off, the original one, because it was in disrepair, and basically matched it pretty much perfectly to some that we found online, and was able to replace them, but basically with a completely restored version of what was already there, which was really exciting. So I love that little design feature. And now as we transition into the kitchen, I will show you another one of my cabinets that I love so much, that has added a huge amount of color and life to the kitchen. This is another Facebook Marketplace find that we basically refitted. I am typically not a huge fan of painting furniture. I love to leave it in its original state, particularly if it's a beautiful wood. But with this piece, it was already painted, and this is actually not an antique. I think it's probably more of like early 2000s or 90s. But it was painted kind of this off-white color, and it really needed to be spruced up. So once again, I chose a lacquered blue. This is a much lighter, this is Wales Gray by Benjamin Moore, which it says Wales Gray, but it is very blue, as you can see, so be warned. But I love that. This is my favorite blue color. I've used it throughout the house. It's the same as the trim in the dining room. And my husband and I painted this and added the brass knobs that actually match the brass knobs on the other cabinetry in the kitchen. And then we filled it up with all of our dishes. I am of the firm belief that beauty is function, and things can be beautiful and be functional at the same time, and that was really the philosophy behind this piece. These are the dishes that we use every day. This is our main cabinetry that we store dishes, glassware, plates, cups, everything in. And it's all on display, and I love that. I love being able to see the things that I've collected, wedding gifts that we've gotten, things over the years, cookbooks. It's just special to be able to have it out and on display. And then the drawers are really helpful as well to store silverware and baking things. Yes, so I have obviously amassed quite a collection of dishes over the years. But some of my favorites, I will say, probably, and I actually don't even have all of these out right now, but my favorite food is pasta, and my husband is an amazing cook, and he makes amazing pasta. And so a while back, I thrifted these really fun dishes that just remind me of Italy and remind me of pasta. So we use these a lot when he's cooking. And this is actually a mixture of old and new. We have some pieces from Anthropology, but mostly we have things that I've collected over the years. I would say my most favorite piece of all is this blue china bowl. I use this for serving salads regularly, for pasta dishes, and it was something that for a long time I had kept on display and didn't use because I was so terrified of breaking it. And as I've been trying to adapt this philosophy of using everything and not saving anything for best, I've really been using this very regularly, and it makes me happy to see it whenever I set the table. I would say what I love most about the home is just the fact that my husband and I have been able to turn it into something that is so us and is completely my style and what I love, and I feel so at home and at peace here. I'm definitely a homebody. I don't like to be out late at night. I do like to travel, but I like to be at home. I mean, it's my favorite place to be. So I think I'm just really proud of the fact that he and I have done so much of the work ourselves, like literal manual labor, in order to turn it into a place that we love so much and is very reflective of who we are as people. This cabinet has been a huge source of storage for us because we actually decided to remove all of the upper cabinets when we redid the kitchen. And I am not against upper cabinets in any way. It just wasn't working for this particular space. This kitchen is a small kitchen. I like a small kitchen. I think it can be just as functional as a large kitchen, but you do have to be aware of the space and how to use things and how to store things. And so that cabinet really came in handy with that. Obviously we do have our lower cabinets. We've painted it in the same color and used those same unlacquered brass finishes to kind of tie everything together. We went with a cleaner, more calm countertop color because I have so many other colors going on. And then one of my favorite features is our sink. So this is a farmhouse style sink, or an apron sink, with this piece coming over right here. But something that Eric really wanted was a large tap, just a really great faucet. And I actually found this on Etsy. It's another unlacquered brass piece. And it was shipped here, and it did take us, it was honestly a huge headache to install it, but he was able to do it, and now it's one of our favorite features. We love it so much. It's amazing for filling pots, and it's just been a great feature of the kitchen. You can probably tell, but a lot of the design style in the kitchen has been influenced by Duval Kitchens, which is a kitchen outfitter design team out of England. And my husband and I watched a lot of the episodes of their show before we redid our kitchen and kind of took little bits and pieces of their design. These little pendant lights are similar to a design that they do, but these were also found on Etsy for a great deal. That's something that I like to do, is you can find these high-end, well-made pieces on Etsy for a fraction of the price that you might buy them for on a designer site. The most major headache, and really the only headache of this process, was the floor. So we would have loved to have an original hardwood floor in here, but that just wasn't the case. It had been, I think it was 3 layers of vinyl flooring with then an LVT, a gray plank LVT on top. So we came in and we removed everything. We pulled it all the way back to the subfloor, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to match these beautiful original oak floors that the rest of the house had. So I kind of wanted to pivot and do something totally different where it didn't feel like we were trying to be matchy-matchy and it just wasn't working. So we decided to go with this hexagon-shaped terracotta tile, and it was quite the adventure getting these in and laid because they're handmade, and so every single tile is different, a little bit misshapen, a little bit different height or width. So out of the whole kitchen renovation process, the floor was definitely the most involved, but I honestly couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. I think it adds so much character. People ask me if it's original. I think it looks historic in the way that it's worn in. And so we're just really pleased with the floor, despite the fact that it was a bit of a process to get it in. Something that I am a huge believer in is having soft seating in your kitchen. I think it's something that some people think is weird, some people love. You see it a lot more in European homes or traditional English homes, but I love having a comfy chair to sit in the kitchen. I love to be able to sit down and watch as Eric cooks, which is such a luxury, I know, to have a husband that's an amazing cook, but to be able to just sit down and watch or sit here and read or do whatever I need to do, it's honestly such a fun little spot. And so it was an essential for me when we were redoing the kitchen that I would have a little nook to sit down and put some soft seating in. My husband and I both love gardening, and so we have over the past few years turned our backyard space into a cottage garden, a potager garden, so a lot of fruit trees and veggies. Nothing is growing, not a lot is growing right now, obviously, as it's really early in the season, but we recently got a greenhouse to start seeds in, and so we've begun planting some more cold weather plants, and then just the little starts of tomatoes and things like that. As you can see, I have a huge bowl of eggs back here because Eric and I have 14 chickens that live in our backyard, and they all lay different types of eggs, different colors of eggs, and it's been such a fun experiment for us. We love the chickens. We have ducks as well. We love them so much. We both are huge animal people, and I've always wanted to live on a farm. So someday when we get a future property, we'll have more space to have different kinds of animals. But the chickens have been a really fun addition to our little miniature homestead in our backyard. And we insist on giving people eggs every time they come over because we truly have so many that we can't keep up with eating them. And it's just a really special thing to be able to give to people, bring to family. Everybody loves fresh eggs, especially when they're this beautiful. So I didn't grow up in North Carolina. I actually grew up in DC, and I came here for school, which is where I met my husband. And I actually majored in vocal performance and musical theater. So I always had an artistic bent, I would say. I loved art, music, and I've always loved to collect things and design. Like even in my childhood home, I loved having my own room designed exactly how I wanted it. But I didn't really start getting into collecting more and more larger pieces of antique furniture and truly designing spaces until my husband and I opened our businesses. So we have a coffee shop together, and then almost 2 years ago now, we opened a restaurant and a bar. So we have multiple small businesses that we own locally, and I have fully designed the interiors of both those businesses, which has been a huge joy for me personally. And then more recently, I started a small home decor business myself, which takes vintage textiles that I've thrifted and sourced locally and turns them into soft homewares like pillowcases and placemats and things like that. So this is our nursery, and I will be honest and say that it is not completely finished yet. Obviously, we still have a little bit more time before the baby gets here, but this has been one of the most fun rooms for me to decorate. It's been a process collecting things. I have been collecting baby things for a long time, and I am so thrilled to be able to finally use them. So we actually have, I would say, in this room more than any of the other rooms, a good mixture of new and old things. This crib is new, and it's from Crate & Barrel, and I love the Jenny Lind style with the poles. It's a really beautiful maple wood, great quality. And this was one of the pieces that we wanted to buy newer because regulations and rules with cribs do change over time. And then another new piece that we bought was our rocking chair. And this is from Namesake. I knew that I wanted something patterned. I love the idea of using greens and blues and reds and yellows in a little girl's room. I think you don't have to have it one way or the other, but I just wanted to make sure that the whole room was really, really colorful. I love children's rooms that are full and colorful and bright and really happy feeling versus plain and more muted tones. So I wanted to make sure that I brought in tons of color, and one of the ways that we were able to do that was with the wallpaper. This is a beautiful wallpaper from Sandberg that Eric and I put up. Actually, I would say just the last week was when we kind of finished this room. And he and I did it together. We've kind of become pros at this point because we've hung up a lot of wallpaper in this house. But I loved the subtle little yellow flowers. I think it just adds this kind of childhood charm, but it's not overly girly or overly bright. And I love that about it. We also have another antique English pine piece here. As you can tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with English pine, but this is a nice little cabinet that as the baby grows, we can store more toys and things like that as well. And probably my favorite feature of the room are the bookshelves. So these are actually window boxes, like valances that go over a window, but Eric and I repurposed them to be shelving, and I wanted to make sure that we had a place to display books really beautifully, to store little knickknacks and trinkets and things that are important, things that we've collected for the baby, change the decor out over the years. And so it's also a great styling opportunity, and we really, really love having the shelves. It's great storage, and I think it adds a ton of charm to the room. I actually thrifted this giraffe almost 2 years ago. Eric and I were trying to get pregnant for about 2 years. It took us a while. It was a really long process. And before I knew that it was going to be such a tedious process, I had already begun to thrift things. And this little giraffe is just like a sweet reminder to me that after 2 years, we were able to pull him out of storage and use him in a nursery, and it's been such a blessing. So I've had a few people tell me that our daughter will be scared of it, but I'm choosing to think that she will think of it as a nice friend that's living in her room and is not something that's scary. But I'm a big animal person. Obviously, I loved stuffed animals as a kid, so I wanted to add some of that into this space for our daughter. Another one of the features in this room that I love and I also get asked about a lot are these curtains. So these are fabulous green gingham curtains that I actually found at Goodwill. Many people will be disappointed by that because I've had so many people ask me where I got them. They're exquisitely made, and I got 8 panels for, I believe it was like $15. Of these incredible curtains, and I've used them in the living room, and then I got to use them again in here. The color is perfect. It brings out the green in the wallpaper, and I'm just obsessed with these and honestly want to use them every chance I get in every room possible. Home means to me, I think, a place where you feel really safe and comfortable. Obviously, like a place where your loved ones are. Eric and I also have a lot of pets. We have chickens and ducks and rabbits and dogs and cats. And so the place where all of us, our family of animals, and Eric and I together, and then we're also expecting a baby in June. So I'm about 7 months pregnant. So I think a place where all of us can be together and feel comfortable and at peace is really what my goals are for having a home.
Hi Homeworthy, I am Deb and this is the Mountain Chateau here in Pennsylvania. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Deb Foglia. I am a home decor blogger and entrepreneur. My blog is Seeking Lavender Lane, and I also own a vintage marketplace called Vintage Keepers. We are in our new old home called the Mountain Chateau, and it is in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So we have been here in the Mountain Chateau for about 8 months now, a little less than a year. And we believe the house was built in 1917. We're still trying to discover a little bit of the history about it. So we bought this house from a couple who lived here for 40 years. And the house needed a lot of work, but it had such beautiful original character that we just fell in love with it. We think the home, we're kind of calling it like a stone Tudor. I'm not exactly sure. And it just has a lot of like Victorian influence, but also kind of Tudor influence as well. So that's why we kind of call it the Mountain Chateau. I think when it comes to my personal style, I know most of the people in my life know I decorate with vintage and antiques. It's just something that I'm drawn to. I think a lot of that happened from just trying to decorate on a tight budget all these years. And so I just started shopping flea markets and antique shops and Facebook Marketplace. And so a lot of that has created my style. And I think for the most part, people know that I am so drawn to anything French. I also love an Italian influence. I come from an Italian family. And so it's a lot of that has influenced my style and my design. All right, so we are in my entryway. This is the first room that we saw when we looked at the house over a year ago, and it just took my breath away. I loved the beautiful stairs here. Just the detail of the ironwork is just so beautiful, and the original wood. I just fell absolutely in love with it. So I didn't have like a very big entryway in the last two houses that we lived in, and so not that this is really big, but it just was so exciting that I'd be able to actually decorate an entryway. So we put this table here, which I bought from a local barn sale. And, you know, it just has certain things that I just love. A book that I had read a couple years ago talked about how the French love to style their entryways with things that kind of introduce you to the family. And so I wouldn't say necessarily this is introducing you to my family, but you can see things like the statue of David, which kind of shows you the Italian influence in my life. And then I love stacking things on books. I just love that aesthetic so much, and creating vignettes probably more than most people do. And so here we have, this is actually a picture of my Nonna. She left this earth a few years ago, and she is just such an inspiration to me. She came from Italy and moved here in her 40s and started a new life here with starting her own creative business as a seamstress, and she's just a very special woman. So she is here in my entryway, and then, you know, we just have, like I said, some books. This is a candle. I also make candles. It's another part of the many things I do in life, and so I have one of my candles burning here. And I think one of the coolest things about this house is this phone niche. And I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with it, so I just left the phone that the previous owners had left here. I don't know if it's the original phone from the house, but this phone niche is just so cool. And I just love that it has that like original character here. Over here we have this new vintage rug that I just added here, and I feel like it just makes the space. It brings a lot of those warm tones in here, which I think complement the wood in the stairs really, really well. And I just love this door so much. And the original leaded glass here is just such a nice original feature. So this space is, you know, I try to keep it as simple as possible because you're coming in and out. But a couple of the details that I added was just doing these doors in this dark charcoal color. And I think it just kind of pulls in all the blacks and the iron rails and things like that. Another favorite piece is this light fixture. And this I found at Brimfield last year. And so we had already closed on this house, but we hadn't moved in yet. And so I started collecting things for this new home. And this was immediately caught my attention. I bought it for like $100. I believe it came from an old church, and I just love the warmth that it brings, and it just looks like it's always been here. So it's one of my favorite things. Another favorite, which is actually off right now, so it's not chiming while we're filming, but is this clock. It's not super old. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace also right before we moved, and it was like one of those things that like, that's perfect for our mountain chateau. I love that it chimes. It's those little sounds and noises and smells and things like that that I just love in a home. One of the other things that we hear here is the train whistle in town. And so between the train whistle and the chiming of the clock, it just makes the home so much more magical. On this side, where our stairs are, we just added this new stair runner, which I just love. I think just the texture and then also the safety of having a runner is great. But one of my favorite color themes is brown and black, and I talk about it all the time on Seeking Lavender Lane. And so having this kind of this neutral brown wool runner and then the black border, just absolutely love. And it ties in so nicely with our gallery wall, which I have been collecting. Again, lots of vintage art, and I just love the tones of all the art pieces. I think when it comes to a gallery wall, it's, you know, picking up on the same tones is a great way to make a successful gallery wall. They don't all have to be the same. You know, some are prints, some are oil paintings. I love the touch of having something unexpected like a mirror or something that's like three-dimensional is great. And I think it just ties really well with this little dark door. This leads to our pantry and our mudroom area. So I usually keep the door closed. I just like the way it looks better than seeing into it. But one of my favorite new pieces is this mirror right here. And I also got this on Facebook Marketplace, $100, and it's just the perfect finishing touch. I love it. And it's great too, because like when you're on your way out the door, to be able to just like check yourself real quick before you leave, it's the perfect placement. So when we were on our house hunting journey last year, we had looked at a lot of different homes. I knew I wanted something with old character and all of that, especially moving to Pennsylvania. There's so much of that out here. And this house specifically was just a showstopper in its character, its higher ceilings, this stone exterior, so many of the details that we just really fell in love with. Of course, we looked at it from the aesthetic side and then also just the money side of it. And I will say it has been quite the money pit. So since being here, we closed on the house last April and we started the work around May, moved in July in the middle of the renovation. And a lot of the work that's been done you'll see today, and we have transformed our primary bath. It used to be the sitting room in the primary room, and it's now our bathroom. We changed our dining room to the kitchen, and the kitchen to the laundry room and pantry, and so a lot has been changed in here, including, of course, paint and furniture and all of that. So here's the living room, dining room combo. It was actually the original living room in the house, but since we turned our kitchen into the dining room into the kitchen, it has now become the living room and dining room combo. And so this took me a little time to figure out a good balance of just furniture placement and everything. But one of the pieces that we got, I ordered before we moved in, was this beautiful sofa. I love the warmth of it. This color is just so beautiful. I think it's called cognac. It's just gorgeous. And I actually originally had it against the wall and it drove me crazy for months. And about a month ago, I said, I'm taking it off the wall. We're going to rearrange. And so that's what we did. And I love it this way. It's so comfortable to just sit here, and we have the TV above the mantle. And just sitting here and watching TV and relaxing and reading and having my coffee, it's just the best. And so one of the pieces that I think it just goes so well with is this beautiful tapestry. And this has also had a few different homes here so far, and I think this is probably a place to stay. And this gorgeous tapestry, I believe it's 18th century from France, and it was an eBay score. I would say probably one of my bigger splurges in the house. My husband still is very unhappy with this purchase because it cost us a little bit more than most of the things I buy, but I just had to have it. I love the look of tapestries. They are trendy right now, but just the colors in it is just so beautiful. It fills the walls so nicely, and it truly brings that old world character in here that I just absolutely love. So I've been kind of playing around with this space here. Again, we're in the editing stages, so you just never know. Tomorrow it might look totally different. But right now I'm kind of loving the palm here. We have this column back there. This is another Brimfield find, which I just love. I have two of them. The other one's on the other side, but it's these Italian lanterns. I think they're mid-century. They're not insanely old, but they just are just exquisite. They are plugins, which is great. And so it just lights up this corner really, really nicely. And so I just love how that pairs really nice with our tapestry. So this side of this room, I added this runner. I kind of love this. I think it's a great design tip. If you have a space that's kind of empty, you can fill it with a runner rather than a full-size rug. This is vintage, so you know, it's just very unique. I love the colors in it. It goes so well with our entryway rug also. We do, because these are the original floors in the house, which I fell in love with. But they're old and they do have staining and, you know, things like that. I think when you buy an old home, it's something that you have to just accept. You know, there are going to be imperfections, and I kind of love imperfections. So I just love that. So with an old home, you have old radiators. This has a radiator cover. Believe it or not, we actually use coal in this house. That's how old it is. And I love kind of using this as almost like a tabletop. So I have all of these books and magazines here, and again, creating vignettes with it. These little matches. This is actually a pottery piece that I made in a pottery class I did years ago. But these matches are from a woman. She makes them and sells them on her Instagram. They're called MO matches, and I love those. A little statue, my little head here. I love that. Disco balls are very in right now, and I was a little like not sure about that trend. And then I said, you know what? Let me buy one. I found it at the flea market, and the light that it just puts on your walls and your ceiling, it's just so beautiful. And so I'm always kind of switching this decor up. Here in the summer, we have beautiful hydrangeas that kind of peek through the windows. They're at that point where it's time to kind of trim them back. This corner, again, another evolving space in our house, but I just recently styled this with this marble bust. This was another great vintage find. I recently got this beautiful mirror here. These plates, so I have a lot of things, and I'll probably talk about them more today, that were my great Uncle Dante's, and these are some of his. They were hand-me-down, and I love that I can see them every day, so I hung them on the wall here. And this little plinth, this we actually DIY'd, so it's a great little DIY project to elevate your bust or your plants or anything like that. So the interior of the house, we haven't quite got to the exterior yet. So the interior of the house, we've added lots of vintage, which is my favorite. I love decorating with anything vintage. I'm always at the flea market, so I find lots of things for like $5. And I think our style is kind of eclectic with European vibes. I love anything English Victorian meets French chateau. I also love a little touch of rustic. So it's a little bit of all of that. Our previous home was more European farmhouse, which I like to say. And so I had to get a little fancier here. And we've just put elements in here with like our marble and our Italian lantern sconces and a beautiful 18th century tapestry to kind of bring that little bit of that fancy vibe. So onto this side of the room. which has our original fireplace. This, again, another original feature of the home that I just absolutely love. There are things that still need to happen here, which I look forward to sharing down the road, but I believe this is like 1980s tile that they probably added, the previous owners, and I want to eventually update that with some marble or something. But for now, I just kind of hide some of this with this vintage screen. But this was originally, when we moved in, I thought she did a really nice job. She had them in like two tones. It was like a gray and white. And I contemplated leaving that, and then I said, let's just paint it all white. I want the whole room white. And so we did. And it's actually one of my favorite colors. It's the same color as our kitchen cabinets. It's called French Canvas by Benjamin Moore. And it's like my new favorite white. It's just warm and just beautiful. And it just highlights the little details so well. But I also love that it's kind of muted too, that it's all white. So on to what's on top of our fireplace. Now this is our TV. So it's a Samsung frame and we bought a separate frame for it. I love changing the artwork out all the time. So today it's a dog, tomorrow it's ballerinas, the next day it's a landscape or some portrait. So this, I'm kind of feeling the dog right now. And on top of our mantle, you know, again, always switching it up. I try to keep it a little bit more simple year round, really go all out for Christmas with a beautiful garland this past year. But I have this little pheasant statue, some pheasant feathers here, and again, just decorating and mostly vintage. Over here under the window, I think a great way to style a space, especially if you kind of love this eclectic look of just collections and stuff, is I'm a magazine hoarder. And so keeping your magazines out, and I do go back and read them all the time and relook at them, the design books and stuff. And then I just kind of style them with some pieces on top. I love kind of these used paintbrushes. It kind of gives this like artistic feel. This is a friend of mine gave me this little guy, and I love it because at nighttime, oh, it's not plugged in. Is it not? No, it's not plugged in. But at nighttime, I light this up, and I love that it just kind of like illuminates the floor here. It brings light into the space in a different way. So be creative with your styling and, you know, consider lamps on the floor. Why not? So over here, we have this cute little bench. This is also vintage. I love that it creates extra seating for in our living room space. And it also kind of fills this here without blocking like the TV or the fireplace too much. And, you know, a lot of the tones in this room you're probably seeing is, you know, mixing that like warmth with cool tones. So this is that like mustard yellow velvet. You know, we had the cognac on the sofa, the colors in the tapestry. So I really love that balance of like warmth and cool, and, you know, and we just kind of create that throughout the whole space. So we have our pillows here that are always changing, but right now they really bring in the warmth and the greens in here. And, you know, this coffee table now kind of goes to the cool tones. And I love how this just goes so well with the tapestry. This is also one of my Uncle Dante pieces. It was in his home, then it was in my home growing up as a child, and then when we moved to our last house, I took it from my parents, and it was actually in our basement, and then I was like, I can't just keep this as a basement table. It has to be in my main living space. And so here it works so nicely. It's a little wonky. It's been loved, but he actually painted this. And so I never thought I'd love a green coffee table, but it's amazing how well it works here. And I wasn't sure if it would be a temporary piece, but it's not. I love it. It's, you know, it's got the greens and blues, which pull into the tapestry really nicely. And I love that it's kind of chunky too, so it allows me to really like style it with all my books and accessories. So let me show you a little bit what's on top of our coffee table. I, again, love styling with books and creating vignettes. And I love that this kind of feels like artwork on the table, especially if you're looking from over top. And, you know, I love keeping a art book open. You can see the artwork just on display. And of course, tons of vintage here. You know, I love this little paperweight. This was a fun estate sale find. Again, more matches. And I love anything with pottery. This little lighter, which I thought was so cute. It doesn't work, but it's so cute. And, you know, some tulips. I love having flowers always. I kind of love that they're in this like wilting stage right now. It feels very like architectural and interesting. So just really nice. And then I always have a candle on. This is actually one of my vintage candles that I make here. And I just love how that like pairs so well with all of the styling on this table. On this side of the room, again, I've just moved some things around. So this was on the other wall where the tapestry was, and we just moved it here. This was another great Facebook Marketplace find. It's my pine cabinet. I think it brings a little bit of that rustic feel that I also really love in here. And again, just creating lots of collections of pieces. I love a great bust or head. I think it just creates that unexpected feel to a space. I think faces are just something that really elevate a room. So whether it's a portrait or a bust, those are things I'm always drawn to. And so yeah, these are just little things that I love. This piece of art is a favorite vintage find. And, you know, and then these drawers, I love to hide all the things that you don't want to see every day, and they're not exactly organized. On this side of the room is the dining room section. And again, it was the original living room, but it fits a dining room space so well. And it really just allows us to like sit in this room and use it for both, you know, entertaining and eating and sitting and lounging as a family. So again, these are all Facebook Marketplace finds. Great way to just keep things on a low budget. I got these shield back chairs recently. I had looked and looked and looked forever for the perfect chairs, and I just love them. And they're insanely comfortable too. This table, so now, right now I kind of have it set up like a library style. Again, lots of books, vintage. I love that, but I also love setting it and having it as more of a dining space. So either one, I love how it kind of combines both looks of both library and dining. So back here, this is actually our newest addition, which we worked so hard on this week. So this is the addition. Behind here is our sunroom, and the previous owners did the addition about 20 years ago or so. And I really did not love the look of this window that was here. And so hubby built this out for me, and with a little ledge at top. And so it kind of just creates this division so we don't get that like light coming through or seeing the other things in the other room. And then I painted this mural. It's like my first time ever painting anything. I just got like a creative, crazy moment and painted this with like a rag and some dryer sheets and using just like leftover paint colors in our house. And I think it creates like a really nice backdrop for this space and really allows us to feel like this is its own personal space without looking onto the sunroom. When it comes to finding your personal style, I feel like time, like definitely give yourself time. I think a lot of it also has to do with the architecture of your home too. So there's a lot of things that will influence that. And I love trend, but I also think that you don't want to get too trendy. So follow trends because it definitely, it will switch up your style a little bit. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if I'd ever decorate with yellow. Now all of a sudden yellow is very trendy. I tried yellow in my house. You'll see it in a little bit. And I love it now. So I think that you should try the things that are popular and see how it works and follow designers that have a good sense of design. So a few other things that I always kind of go back to and use as just like resources is 100% Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I think Pinterest has a great mix of designers and interior bloggers and so much of that. I always say, you know, create a pin, like especially if you're decorating a new house, create a Pinterest board specifically for everything that you love and just put it all on this one board, and then go back to when you are thinking about designing a new space and go back to that board and kind of see what really feels like your style. And so this way you don't sway too much, because I think sometimes we can be swayed, especially in the world of social media. We're all, you know, just taking in all of these different designs out there. And I think that that could be a little overwhelming sometimes. And so, you know, in order to make sure you stay on track with your own taste, keep going back to that design board. It's something I've done for my last 2 houses, and it's really helped me stay on track. And the other thing I love, and you'll see it throughout our house, I love design books, and I think that that is a great way to elevate your style, so you could kind of get out of the everyday home to really design like a designer. So over back here, we have this great cabinet, which is also a new addition. I wanted to get a little more whimsy. And so I created these yellow and white stripes, and this is where that little touch of yellow comes in. And, you know, I wanted to try yellow. It's a very trendy color right now. I think it also feels very like English cottage. And so I did this unexpected yellow and white paint stripes on the back here. And I'm calling this kind of my like old money / Italian grandma cabinet with like the Mother Mary and all of that, the old books. So it's kind of a combination of both those styles that I really adore. So over here, I have this portrait. I love decorating with portraits. You'll see quite a bit of them throughout my house. Again, I love anything with a face. I think it just totally elevates a space. This is the female. I also have the male in our kitchen, and I got the 2, I want to say it was like $25 on Facebook Marketplace. It was an insane price. And I don't know if it's original or if it's a print that they kind of like layered this gloss on top to make it look like an original. I actually can't fully tell, but it's a favorite. I love the chunky gold frame with it, and it just fills the space so nice. And it's also has been moved around quite a bit in our house, and right now I'm kind of loving it here. So when it comes to Facebook Marketplace, I think I get that question all the time, is like, well, how do you find such good things? I will say New Jersey's Facebook Marketplace was better than Pennsylvania's so far, but I'm still like learning the area since we've moved out here. But one of the things that I do is I save everything I like. So whether I need it right now or don't need it right now, I can afford it, I can't afford it, and I save all the things I like, and that has helped the algorithm of Facebook Marketplace just to show up with things that I, you know, that is my style. It's almost like Facebook knows my style now. Another great thing too is just like, you know, really searching specifically. So I'm not sure what I searched for when I found this portrait, but I don't know, but you know, searching for portraits, I mean, I was just on the hunt for dining room chairs forever. So tons of dining room chairs had come up, but it took me a while to find the right ones. So when it comes to hosting, I am a combination of like wanting everything to be like beautiful and present it really well, but I'm also one of those like hosts that's like, yeah, bring a dish, go ahead, we'll just put a buffet out, it'll be great. I like to keep things simple. Being a busy mom and entrepreneur, I love having people over, and now that we're kind of towards the end of our renovation in this house, I'm so excited to host again and just have family and friends here all the time. But I do love a little bit of a combination of like putting a beautiful cheese board out, but then also having, you know, go get some KFC and put that out. So I'm like a little bit of both, and I appreciate that I have a family that is really amazing cooks. So one of the favorite details to this home is this leaded glass window. I fell in love with this. I think this is kind of what brings that Tudor feel to it, and I just absolutely love it. From the outside, it's beautiful as well. And it took me a little while to figure out, well, what do I want to put here? And I just started putting some plants and spring flowers here, and I just love that they get so much sun out here as well. And it's just one of my favorite features here. So here is the kitchen off of the dining room. That was our original dining room space, and I just thought when we saw this house, if I was gonna buy this house, this had to be the kitchen. It's just in the center of the home. It's is a lot bigger than the original kitchen. Of course, when you have older homes, that seems to be the issue, is that smaller kitchens, bigger living spaces. And so with us being in 2024, we wanted a place that we can host and really move around. And it kind of had that modern kitchen, but we also added lots of touches here that makes you think, was this kind of original? One of my favorite pieces to this kitchen is this marble. I love marble. I know a lot of people are very nervous about having marble in their home, especially in their kitchen. And the question I get all the time, does it etch, does it stain? And it does. It's marble. It's not going to be perfect forever, but I think that's one of the things that you have to embrace, is knowing that the imperfections will happen. Marble has been around forever. It's natural. I love anything that's like authentic and natural. And so the fact that this is marble and it's not man-made is just amazing. It is called the Monet Viola, which is almost like you've seen Monet and you've seen Viola. I love that this is kind of a combination of both, because it brings both the Viola, which is a purple veining, and then the Monet is like this, I think they say it's like a dark green. I see black or charcoal, but the veining is just absolutely beautiful. And I love the warmth of this. In our last house, we had Carrara, and I'm a big Carrara fan too. I still love it, but it's definitely a cooler tone stone. It reads a little bit more blue, and I wanted something that felt warm, and I just thought this was the most perfect marble. I feel so blessed and so excited to have it, and I think it just makes the space. The way we designed this kitchen is I wanted it to be open, and I also wanted to feel like an unfit kitchen. Something that didn't feel completely traditional. I wanted almost to feel like pieces of furniture. And so we did this back section here, and then we did the island. We have no uppers in here. And we also did the trim at the bottom to make it feel like furniture. So you don't have that toe kick, which is usual for a kitchen. I kept it very simple in style. I wanted the rest of the space to kind of shine, but and the marble, of course. And so everything is just very, very sleek, simple. It's got great organization. I know that's usually one of the things I get on social media, is people asking me, well, you know, how do you make it work without uppers? And we really do. We have tons of storage here, and it works really, really well. So one of my favorite parts is this beautiful purple veining right here. It's like the most perfect. When I saw the slab, I was like, I just love that. So I love that touch of purple, and you get a little of the warmth in here too. It is honed, so we had it honed, which I also really love, because I love that matte finish to the stone. And it's just really beautiful. Up top here, I try to style it almost like a credenza or something. So I always have artwork. I wanted to kind of feel like a piece of art, the kitchen. We have lamp lighting too. We have the sconces on the wall. And, I just love kind of decorating again with tons of vintage pieces and finds that just kind of bring that old world feel to our kitchen space. Some of the details when it comes to just kitchen cabinets, to make it feel extra special, we did exposed hinges, which I love, the unlacquered brass knobs, so those will kind of patina over time, which I really love. We also did all inset cabinetry, which again makes it feel more like furniture than a typical kitchen. And we just did this little beaded trim, and just those little touches go a long way. You can see overall the style is very simple, but it's those little details that really elevate it and make it interesting. And you might not capture that until I actually sit here and point it out, and then you'll understand why this space kind of feels very special, and without details that hit you hard. So those are all the things that we designed here that I really love. So I think when it comes to this house, there's so many things I love about it. I think of course, it just being an older home, and knowing that there's this hidden history that I'm just dying to know. I love the fact that there was so many families that had lived here prior to us, and I think that that's just so exciting. It's our very first old home we've ever lived in, so I think that just being still in our first year here, it just continues to excite me. But I love just like the details, like the moldings. You can't find that in new homes. You can't afford it if you're building a new home. So things like that. I love the windows in this house, the placement of the windows. I think for an older house too, it really, it is very bright. It has a really good flow to it. And those are the things that kind of just had us fall in love. And then I think if I had to choose like a favorite room in the house, it would probably be my living room or the kitchen. And the kitchen was the original dining room, and we turned it into the kitchen. And I think it's just got such a nice flow to both the patio and to the rest of the living space. So over here on this side of the island, I wanted it to look like, again, like a piece of furniture. So we designed it to have these open shelves at the bottom, and then we have these little shallow drawers. I have like, this has all my tea in it, and this is a junk drawer here, and I just love that. I have this vision that I'm collecting to get all vintage cookbooks, and I want to fill the entire top with vintage cookbooks, but this is all I got so far, so I'm working on it. It's a new favorite collection of mine, is to collect vintage cookbooks wherever I am, whether it's an estate sale or at a flea market. I love the look of vintage cookbooks. So on this side of the kitchen, it's a little different. We took this original niche, which was here from the house. They had just like a little console table here when it was the dining room. And I envisioned doing this very like Victorian English style tiles. And it's actually all just like ceramic 4x4s. And then we put these little nail heads inside here. I appreciate the patience of my carpenter who did all this. And I just love how it brings kind of that English Victorian feel. It feels very Downton Abbey, if you're familiar with this show. And I just love that little feature. I also thought it tied really well into the leaded glass window up top, those little nail heads. And this was one of our splurges for this house, but I felt like if we were gonna do a niche like this with the unfit style kitchen, we needed a beautiful large range. And this is the 60-inch LV, which is an Italian range, and it feels so perfect for this niche. It fits so beautifully inside. I love how it's still open on each side of it. It really gives that unfit feel. And behind it, let me show you this, because I'm sure we'll get questions. People ask all the time, well, how do you vent it? So we actually have this downdraft, and it just comes right up. Good little feature. It comes up and it hides away after, and it vents when we are cooking in here. Okay, so on this side of our kitchen, I love just the way the windows and the French doors go out to our patio. And I wanted a space that we could just sit and have coffee or tea. My kids eat breakfast from here sometimes. And so I got these vintage bentwood chairs, this bistro table, which I love keeping a tablecloth on it sometimes, and just kind of, styling it like we're in this little French cafe. It's fits here like so perfectly. I want to do probably some cushions on our radiator covers eventually. It's a future project. Hubby actually built these for me. So I wanted them to look like original shutters from an old Victorian house. And the wall was so blank, and I just love that this added that character, and I feel like you almost don't even know that it's not original. The cafe curtains were just the perfect little like soft touch to this window too, to give that soft lighting. And my favorite is definitely just being able to go outside when it's warm. This week was so beautiful out. We kept this open and we're grilling on the patio, and I just love how that just transitions just so well from our kitchen to the outside. Behind me here is the original built-ins. I think that this is definitely another favorite feature from this house. They were here as the dining room built-ins, and we use them as part of our kitchen storage. And so I love that this is part of our kitchen, but yet they're original and old, and we put these little locks on them and keep our everyday dishes and platters and stuff like that in here. I think when it comes to first-time DIYers, decorators, first-time homeowners or renters, if you are trying to both find your style and also just update, especially on a budget, every house we've done, we always have, a pretty tight budget. I would say always start with paint. Paint goes a long way. I think updating your light fixtures is another huge update that instantly transforms the space. So those are the two things that I always recommend, especially if there's not a lot in the budget to work with. And then just keep collecting. I'm such a collector. I love shopping vintage, and that's just been something that really has helped me to style all the little vignettes and spaces in my house. And so much so that we started a vintage website called Vintage Keepers. It's a marketplace, and we just love being able to sell my own stuff through there and also have vendors that have just a great style to sell through as well. So from the kitchen, we do have our pantry, which was the original kitchen. It's a combination room, so it's half pantry, half laundry room, but I'm not going to show you the laundry room today because it's not quite finished. But this is the section that we turned into our pantry. So we had these built by our carpenter. I just love that it kind of created this hutch. It was actually original like peninsula from the kitchen here. We knocked that all out and we did this, and it hides a lot. We have some more cabinets too in like our laundry room section that we put some the not so pretty things like cereal boxes and stuff like that. This side I did a little punch of red, and it's our refrigerator and our coffee nook and all of that. Hide some of our appliances. We have our ice machine underneath here, and it just functions so well. I love having this space because it allows us not to have everything in the kitchen that you don't want to see every day. And it's so close to the kitchen that it functions just so well, just walking right through. One of the things I should definitely talk about is the floors in here. So these floors, being an old house, were very slopey, and we could not figure out a solution that was, not incredibly expensive. So we put plywood down and we painted these Harlequin pattern on the plywood, and it's great, and I love it, and it really kind of feels old world, but it's also was so cheap and easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy. My neck hurt for like about a week after, but it was definitely a great solution to buy some time until we can do tiles or something down the road. So from here we have our teeny tiny powder room. I mean, it's tight, but we made the most of this really tiny space. So we created this sweet little English cottage powder room. One of my favorite features is this little corner sink that we put in to save room. The little wooden toilet seat is a great detail in here. And we actually took out part of the tile wall and built this out because you literally couldn't even sit on the toilet. It was that tight. It was so tight. One of the best DIY tips that we did was we had the old original tiles behind here, and instead of demoing the whole thing, we just put this vertical shiplap right on top, and it made such a great solution and allowed us to be able to DIY this bathroom without hiring a professional. So I have been running a design blog for about 11 years now. It's called Seeking Lavender Lane, and it started from when we were searching for our very first home and the journey of just finding that house to our very first DIY projects and learning how to decorate. I have always had this passion for styling. I think trading spaces, just growing up with that, was kind of a big influence on my life. I then really fell in love with fashion. I went to school for fashion studies, and after graduating, I worked in the bridal industry for quite a while, and then from there I started falling in love with just styling our first apartment to finding our first home. And so all of that kind of took off in my career, and I did that on the side for a really long time as a hobby blogger, and left working in the city and in bridal about 7 years ago. And so I just kind of fell in love with this. I feel like I'm still learning and growing, and I love each new house that we have lived in because it's really kind of exercised my just my craft, and I just really just love interiors so much. All right, so there's a lot more house left, but I'm gonna show you just a little bit upstairs. We'll take you up to take a look at our primary bedroom and bathroom space. It's something that we have almost finished decorating, so I'm excited to show you guys. Okay, so right before I take you into the primary bedroom, I want to talk to you a little bit about my hallway. And one of my favorite things that I have is this painting from my Uncle Dante, which my parents have tons of his art in their house, and this is one of the pieces they gave me, and I just love it. And I love kind of like where it pulls in the lady in red with the red rug here, and it's just a really special piece that I'm super thankful that I have in my house. Okay, so here is our primary bedroom. It's half the original room, and then there has been an addition put on from the previous owners. And we basically up here did a couple things. We refinished the floors because they were in pretty bad shape. We had somebody come in and do that professionally. We replaced the original plaster ceilings because they were completely cracked and just had drywall put up. But we went for this really neutral. It was actually this blue color when we bought the house, and I just went for this neutral. Actually, this is also French canvas, my favorite new white color. And this is just a really soft feel. I kind of combined two styles in here. I feel like it's half like English cottage, but then it's also kind of, I call it Italian grandma style. And I love like just all of the like serene feels, but also some of like those vintage elements that really make it, feel very special. It's not too crowded. It's kind of a smaller space, just the bedroom. So we have a really simple bed. I did very simple bedding. And then I got this headboard off of Facebook Marketplace. Those two end tables are actually from my mom's cousin. She gave those to me. So those are a hand-me-down piece, and I love having pieces like that in my house. I think it just makes it feel extra special. And I believe they were her husband's grandmother. So really cool. I love the marble. I love how it just goes with our headboard. It almost feels like it was probably a set, and it wasn't. So this is the sitting room, which is off of our bedroom. And this was an addition that was done along with the sunroom that the previous owners did a couple decades ago. I love that they added this. I think it really expands the bedroom. It's actually not the biggest bedroom in the house until they did this. My daughter's bedroom, which I won't be showing today because it's not finished, but it is probably the prettiest room in the house. But this is such a great space, and I wanted to go really moody with it. So you'll see in a second, I did the sitting room really moody, and I did our bathroom really moody, and then kept the bedroom really bright. And this is just a beautiful, deep, dark brown tone. We had these original built-ins in here, and they were this like wood color, and I was kind of like, I don't feel like painting them. So you know what I'll do? I'll just make them hide, and I'll paint the whole room in this brown color, and you'll never see them. And I love like the way the light comes in with this moody tone. And this is just a great place that we like sit and hang out. And it's just a great additional space. We also have a lot of extra storage in here too, which is really, really great. I love this table. It was a hand-me-down piece, also another Uncle Dante's piece. And my mom gave it to me recently, and I was like, good, I need more furniture, I'll take it, and I love it. So another piece that I grew up with, it was always in my parents' house. And a couple things in here are not complete, but I love this rug. It brings in both texture and pattern in here. These were pillows that I had made. They were vintage tapestries, and I kind of like love that touch of equestrian feel. So I thought they fit in here really, really well. And I just thought those were really neat to be able to recycle a tapestry into a pillow. Some other things. So we do have a balcony off of here, which is great for in the summertime. But a couple other things is just like these shelves. I love, again, just displaying lots of vintage and all that kind of stuff. I love that it's moody, and so they just pop so nicely off of the moody backdrop. This was a great find. So I actually got this in an estate sale, and it was a really good price, and I loved it. I love that it came with the light too. And I didn't realize this, but it's Naples, Italy, and so my dad and my whole family are from Naples, and so I was like, oh my goodness, it's Naples, and I didn't even know when I bought it, so I think that's really cool. And I love kind of hanging it in front of this window too, so it kind of blocks out some of the light and gives it a little interest, because they're not my favorite windows. I probably would have picked a different style if I did this from scratch, but this is a great way to kind of like hide things that you don't exactly love. So I think when it comes to really making a home feel like yours and really come alive, I think it's just finding things that you truly love. It's something I'm always talking about in my own platform and my blog, is just really falling in love with the pieces that you add to your house. I think so many people feel like they need to fill their space with just something. I think that is just not tapping into yourself and your own taste. And so fall in love with everything that you put in your house. And that's kind of just what I've done. And I feel like my style changes a little bit over time, some trend influence and all of that. But I think that when you really decorate your house with pieces that you find that have a story to it, whether it's been handed down from family or it's just something that you just thought was super unique and you couldn't live without, I think those are the things that really elevate your space. And I'm always trying to find, like, I love a combination personally of like beautiful things and then also something quirky. Okay, and the other side of our bedroom is our primary bath. This was the original sitting room in this space. I think actually it was the original dressing room. And they had original built-ins on this side. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after we closed on the house last April, there was a leak from an upstairs bathroom, and a lot of it got destroyed. The entire original built-ins got destroyed. The part of the floors got destroyed. Thankful that we had insurance and we were able to fix things. But I was sad that we lost some of the original built-ins. And so when I designed this space, the bathroom's above us, and I thought, wow, like we can now make this the bathroom, because if we had to take all the ceilings out and all this stuff, and the plumbing was pretty easy to be able to address in here. And so I wanted this kind of to feel like an original built-in to just to replace what was here. And so we had a carpenter do all of this, and it's just so beautiful. I love the combination of both the wood with the porcelain backdrop of the shower. I wanted it to feel like a dressing room still, so like this was kind of hidden, and that all you would really see in the space is this floating tub when you're looking into the room. And then once you come in, then you have your sinks here, which we did, and it's just it's kind of hidden, but I also love that it almost kind of feels vintage in a sense. I keep calling the style in here updated Victorian. I feel like if we did Victorian today, this is kind of how it would feel. The moody wallpaper, I love these black tiles. They're just really stunning. And just having these floating pedestal sinks is a great feature. So probably thinking, well, where do you hide all the things? Well, we have these drawers that we had our carpenter make. So they do push in on this wall, and then we have shelving inside. This is our toilet room. I won't necessarily show you the shelving because it's probably not super neat, but this is our toilet room, which is hidden, which is kind of great. Inside the shower, I'll show you, we did this porcelain slab, which is a lot less expensive than marble or anything else. It was actually, we had it cut in twos to save on the install. It was almost half the price. So if you're wanting to do a slab, cut it in half. You barely could see the seam in between. It was a great, just a great way to be able to get this and do it on, a little less expensive than doing a full slab. And then we did this checkerboard pattern on the floor here. And I just kind of love in here doing that like mix of patterns, having both the black and white and then the large scale veining and then this large scale floral pattern on the walls, we have a couple more things I want to still do in here. I've been on the hunt for some curtains and things like that, but it certainly looks completely different than what it looked like before. It was a blue sitting room with a TV in the corner, and I think if the previous owners came back, they'd be quite surprised at what it looks like now. But I feel super thankful because the original bathroom, which is now our closet, was super teeny tiny, and if it wasn't for the leak upstairs, we probably would have never done this. But once the ceilings came down and everything, it only made sense to kind of make this bigger space our primary bath. So in the middle of the room, I decided to do this floating tub. Believe it or not, I actually haven't used the tub yet. So one of these days when I'm not busy, I'll actually get in this tub. But I love that it's in the middle of the room. It becomes this feature. We also did this mirror. It's a vintage mirror. It didn't have any backing to hang it. And so I took this and kind of made it feel like a bathtub tray. And it's another great way to kind of like keep my everyday items like perfumes and Q-tips and stuff like that out and about, but kind of also styled. And then above here, I really wanted a vintage fixture and I could not find one that that worked, and like, you know, we were in the electrician's time frame and stuff, and so I just ordered this one from Overstock, and honestly I just love it. It like really fills the room so beautifully. It gives it that kind of glamorous touch, and I think it just like really finishes the space really, really nicely. We did this little room divider here too, which I really like. I bought this from my friend, and it is just like the perfect little touch to, especially because you have a floating tub, so I kind of feel like it looks like, oh, you know, you can have some privacy with this, but it's also really pretty. And then over here, I guess I could show you this side too. This is, again, just adding more portraits and vintage, my favorites. And this cute little bamboo cabinet I just love. I bought it from one of my vendors on Vintage Keepers, and she buys a lot of her stuff in France. And it's just the sweetest little piece. Like my husband stores some of his like everyday stuff in here. And I just love the way it looked with the wallpaper, and of course that it's French. So I love that. Home is, for me, a place that is just restful. I probably became a homebody more than I ever thought I would be. And so I love styling my house to a way that I'd never want to leave. And I love being here with my family, and you know, we try to make every day special. We romanticize the everyday. So whether that's, you know, decorating with candles, so it just has such a mood. We love doing, you know, pick food and cheese boards, and putting music on, and just loving our home as a family. And so I think that home is just a place of rest and your sanctuary.
On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're taking you to rural Georgia to meet Leslie and Sam Graham, who a few years ago uprooted their lives. They sold their dream house and left their hometown of 40 years. They bought a sprawling 35-acre fixer-upper property that they've been transforming into their family compound, and it's still a work in progress. There's a cottage, 2 barns, and a church on the land. So come along with us as we tour this incredible property and introduce you to the Graham family.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Leslie.
I'm Sam. Welcome to our home in Georgia. Come check it out.
We're so excited to show you guys around.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles.
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Leslie Graham,
I'm Sam Graham.
and we are coming to you from Georgia, about an hour outside of Atlanta in the country. So in 2020, the world was definitely different. And I was watching a lot of Hallmark and just really deep diving on Zillow and came across this sort of wacky property that I sent to Sam on the eve of Thanksgiving.
So I'm sitting in the dentist office. I've got like the technician in my face, and she sends me this picture, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm like, we have to go see it. We have to go buy this place.
So we called my friend Christina, who was our agent, and she was out of town, as you are on Thanksgiving. And we drove out here. The agent didn't, I feel so bad looking back because it was a holiday, but she was kind enough to meet us out here. And I feel like we had blinders on a bit, but we also didn't know that we would be buying this for our home. We thought this would be a really cool investment property because it was a wedding venue. It had all these buildings, and we just thought we could turn it into something cool. And so that night, or actually the following day, on Thanksgiving Day, we were under contract.
As you do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's normal.
So we closed the following January, and we were like, how in the world are we going to do this an hour away from where we lived, which was my hometown of 40 years. The best small town, great food, walking distance, everything. It was really ideal. And we decided it would be really smart for us to uproot our entire life to the middle of nowhere, which is exactly what we did. And then it took us about 18 months to renovate the house that we're sharing today. And it has been quite the journey because we weren't originally going to move out here, but about 3 months into the project decided we would move out here, and we sold our house and we haven't looked back, but we have looked back.
Some more than others.
Sometimes we have looked back, but we are excited. It's an adventure every single day.
So our property is 35.5 acres. We have a 7-acre lake on the property that's full of bass and all kind of fish. There is a chapel, there is a barn, there is a guest house, and there's another building we call the party barn. So this place, it used to be a wedding venue. So folks would get married in the chapel, they would have their receptions in the party barn, the bridal suite would get ready down in the cottage, and it was a whole full thing.
But we knew pretty much from the get-go that we did not want to do weddings. And so we were like, how do we make this work with our life, which we're still figuring out. But this is such a cool story. I had shared a video on TikTok actually that went viral, which is always so surreal. And I get this email with really, it was kind of a generic, weird looking email. I don't even think it had a subject line, but I opened it, which is a miracle in itself. And our new friend, Jim, reached out. He's actually the grandson of the original owners. And he wanted to tell us about the history. So that Friday, we had not a FaceTime, but we had a call with Jim, and he told us the craziest stories about his grandparents sort of carving out the lake and how they used to stay in what they called the tenant house, which is what Sam was talking about as our guest house that we're working on right now. And this house in this room used to be a secret sort of underground supper club for politicians and even a local celebrity. Susan Hayward was living here during that time nearby. And they would have steak and onion rings and cocktails, and come to find out it was during the time when it was a dry county. So it was sort of a, risque, sort of fun hidden gem for the locals.
This would have been back in the late 40s, mid 50s, and the county we're in now was a dry county. So they would have local celebrities come out and just sort of the local politicians come out and have, was it steak and onion rings and cocktails? Yeah, just to get around the Dry County laws.
Yeah, so that's a pretty fun story, and we've connected with Jim and become friends. So they are going, him and his sister want to come and visit, so we can't wait to have them out here.
All right, welcome to our music room. This is the front of the house. It was going to be a sleeping porch, but I never built the bed for it, so we turned it into a music room.
Yes, so this space is really special to us because Sam is a musician. Our oldest daughter is musically inclined. She did not get that from me. And Sam spent hours meticulously painting wood floors that we put down in here. Originally, we were going to use tiles that I bought that were a splurge. And this is something to remember when you're renovating or building, is the width of tile. So the tile was too thick for the doors to open. So we had to regroup. And so we got some really affordable glue down wood flooring before anyone comes at me for painting the floor, because I have heard it on Instagram a lot.
Yeah, and there's a concrete slab under there. So it was either tile or cheap glue down floor. We went for cheap glue down floor, yes, and we painted it.
So Sam did this sort of Harlequin floors, and this is the green that we have throughout the house. And so it's fun that it's all over the walls. We also were able to raise the ceiling in here. This was originally covered in rock that we mentioned that we had to take off of the house. We had to take it off in here as well in order to find the termite damage. And we left the exposed shiplap. All we did was repair a bit of it that was, destroyed. And we also left the beadboard that we found when we removed the ceiling. So we love it in here. It's a fun way for people to come in and see something that's a core value for our family.
So if you want to paint your floor, don't do it. Hire someone else to do it. That's my number one tip. It's the biggest tip that I can give you is to start from the middle and work your way out. Because if you look too closely at the outside of it, you can see I was kind of off a little bit. That ends up getting covered with trim, so it's totally fine. But yeah, start from the middle, work your way out. It seems to work out better that way. And I actually used blue tape, so I shot a line down the center of the floor and then a perpendicular line, and then literally just blue taped the whole thing off and painted it all by hand.
Yeah, Sam is meticulous, where I would come in here and destroy it and then he would have to fix it. So he did that. I would never even think to research how to grid it out, but he watched a ton of YouTube videos. There's a ton of YouTube videos on how to do this, and you nailed it.
Oh, and the other piece too, to get the size of the tile right, I just went to Home Depot and I bought like a really cheap vinyl tile that was 12 by 12. It was the size that we wanted. And I used that as my first template and then blue taped off of that.
So this mirror is one of my treasured possessions. It was my papa's. It is very, very heavy. We just had it moved because it was over at the cottage. We felt guilty having the movers that came last time do it at the end of the day because it is not fun. But we were so thrilled to have it here, and we didn't hang it or anything because it's so heavy. So we just have it kind of leaning here. This is my selfie, check yourself out when you come and go. And then this piece we got at an estate sale, which is always fabulous. We have games in here, so card games in these little drawers, and then we have board games in the bottom. And we love games. And then Sam hung all of these beautiful guitars up on the wall, which we love instruments as art.
These are all fully functional guitars. In fact, this was the guitar that my mom bought for me when I was 14. And somehow it has survived all these years, in which I have now gifted this guitar to my oldest daughter. So she's picking up guitar.
Sam plays bass, guitar, piano.
I started on guitar. I started on piano, and then Nirvana came out, and I was like, I gotta be on guitar. So I picked up guitar and just kind of dabbled throughout the years.
He was also in an 80s cover band. He's being very modest.
I was in an 80s cover band.
He is legit. He's a legit musician. Yes.
So Leslie had mentioned the mirror is her prized possession. The piano is my prized possession. This was my mom's piano that she had in Mississippi. She passed away in 2008. We brought it up here. I don't know when we brought it. Anyways, we brought it up here. It was down in our chapel for the longest time. And then when we had the guys move the mirror, they also moved the piano. So this is my number one prized possession.
And his mom actually was a blue ribbon cross stitcher, and she did the little bench seat here. So that is her work, and we love having it here. It's so special. So I love to mix and match sort of more modern with vintage because it keeps it feeling timeless to me. Like people don't know when you created it. But this is work done by my friend Hannah. And just seeing her signature, I realized that we have hung it incorrectly. But she is phenomenal. Hannah Joyner. I'm sure you could find her online. And this is my first original art piece, so I treasure that. The last thing that I would share is these lights are vintage schoolhouse lights that a friend of mine messaged me about to see if we wanted them. And I think they just really completed the space. So we're really excited to have those in here too. Well, when we moved here, the house was covered in rock, and it was built by that gentleman's grandparents, and it was about 1,100 square feet. So we actually toyed around with demoing the house because we thought maybe it would be easier to just build something. But then when the prices of lumber and everything went crazy in 2021, we thought, okay, that would be nuts. We've got to work with what we have. So we worked with an architect, and actually Sam really helped build out the design of adding on sort of a primary wing. So a mudroom, a laundry room, our bedroom and bathroom is what we added on, but we took it down to the studs and we ended up finding a lot of termite damage, which is why we had to remove the rock, and then we replaced all of the siding. It was a massive undertaking, and this guy did so much of the work with my dad because it was so hard to get people out here because it is so remote. But we had incredible contractors that also helped bring it all together. But it was a massive undertaking for sure.
Well, it's like Leslie mentioned, the house was covered in stone, and we started taking down drywall, and we would find, oh, these studs are completely eaten up by termites. And every wall we opened up was like that. And we unfortunately found out the only way we were going to fix that is if we took all of the stone off of the house. So we took down, 17 tons of stone that we had to remove from the house and then re-brick from the outside so that we could get, 80% termite damage. So we had to repair the extensive amount of damage from the outside because it was just so bad.
Mm-hmm. But we're going to repurpose the rock for gardens that we want to create this spring. So we're going to be able to reuse it, but definitely it looks completely different than when we bought it. So we would love to show you guys our living room. Come right this way. Okay, so I would love to tell you about the fireplace. So we had the same rock that was on the outside of the house and that was in this music room on the walls was also on the fireplace. They were really into it. We found out through our friend Jim that it came from Stone Mountain, which is very cool. It was granite. However, it wasn't the vibe that we wanted in here. So we ended up taking it off. Sam took it off, and we found this sort of cool exposed brick situation, but the brick was too...
It was one of those moments like when you pull something off the wall and there's something even cooler behind the wall. And we were super excited because it was original brick, and we were stressing about how we can incorporate the brick into the design. But the problem that we had was there's a gap behind the wall there. Yeah. And so the brick kind of tapers up, and there was no real way to fill that in without it looking super weird.
So we ended up sheetrocking around it so that it would be flush with the coffered ceiling. And then we had someone, a genius woodworker, mill guy, make this sort of more traditional mantle, which we painted again green. And then these Delft tiles are from Reg, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's REGT tiles. And they were flown over from Europe, and they're so special. These are like potted hydrangeas is what I think it is. And I love them so much, and they're very, very special. That was a splurge. I'll go ahead and tell anyone that's going to Google that. And then we ended up using for the threshold, we ended up using leftover countertop from the laundry room to do that. So that was an amazing budget saving situation.
The andirons and the screen and the tools were also an estate sale find.
Yes.
Sometimes she drags me. This was actually the cool one. It was the oldest lived-in residence in the town we came from. So it was actually really cool to go in and look and see all their trinkets.
And they also have green everywhere. So I feel like that was like a hidden inspiration.
Yep.
But we got the mirror from there as well. And it's so beautiful. I love that. I get questions about that a lot. And so that's the fireplace. So we are in the middle of decorating for Valentine's. I love the holidays, and my youngest daughter loves the holidays. So any excuse. I found this bow garland, which I think is very over the top, maximalist, fabulous. And I think it would be fun year round, but Sam probably won't go for that. So here it is for Valentine's Day. Okay, so these chairs were actually my friend and neighbor Stephanie sold these to me for a song. She was our neighbor at our last house. Very grateful they did not work in her house because I love them. This rug was my grandparents', and so we feel very blessed to have most of our vintage rugs came from my grandparents' house. We love them so much. And then this chair was my mom's, and it wasn't originally here, but we have loved having the extra seating. And then this sofa was from a Home Depot collaboration that I did many, many years ago with my friend Anna. So Chief has his little cozy corner with his little toys and his bed over here, and we love this. It's Harry Barker. People ask all the time for cute dog beds, and I think they have really cute ones.
So he loves it.
Oh, right on cue.
He's a paid actor.
Way to go. Yay! So this was not here originally, and neither were these doors. So this was all just little small windows. So we turned them into a set of 3 doors. Aesthetically, I love them, but also we really needed to get more light into this room because we added the porch. And so the porch kind of darkened it in here a bit. And then these bookshelves were custom done by a family friend, Mark, and I think he absolutely nailed it. I just wanted it to feel really cozy and collected. We love books, and in many houses have struggled with homes for books, so it is fabulous to have all of that storage.
So when we were renovating, we ended up finding some little treasures from around the property.
But this was in one of the hydrangeas, and I just think I love the blue ribbon in there. I love birds so much. And then you want to show
And then
me?
I was hiking through the woods one day, and we have a lake in the back of our property, and found this basically fully intact turtle shell just sitting just kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, those are a hot item. I see them at Scott's.
There we go. It's literally falling apart as I'm touching it.
Okay. So, and I don't believe in perfect bookshelves. I like them messy and, collected, and we have all the things in here. So it's fun to look around, and you never know what you'll find.
Because you oftentimes can't find anything. My upbringing is maybe a little bit different. My parents, my dad was 55 when I was born, and my mom was 42.
Sam's a miracle baby.
Yeah.
He is.
So my dad fought in World War II. So this was his trunk that everything that he had stored from the war, he kept in this trunk. And unfortunately, so they lived in Mississippi, and Hurricane Katrina flooded everything that was in the bottom of this trunk. So there was lots of paperwork that we lost, lots of photographs that we lost. In fact, we had a photograph of my grandmother who was born in 1896. We had a photo of her in there along with some of her World War I papers. Some of it survived, some of it didn't, but his uniform survived. Some of his GI belt survived. So we've got some of his stuff from World War II, but that was his trunk that he stored all of his war stuff in.
So my grandfather is an artist, and we sadly lost him a couple of years ago, and it's one of my greatest heartaches in life, and I'll try not to cry. But he was a watercolor artist, and he did this piece and several in the kitchen, and they are my treasures, and so we're so grateful to have his work here. This chair came from my friend Krista. She is a total amazing collector. And they were cleaning out a warehouse, which I felt very lucky to be invited or just know about the warehouse sale. So I got this chair from her. This came from Scott's Antiques. It was on a porch. The dealer was selling it, and I just am obsessed with the weird colors, and I love orange and green together. So very happy to have that in here. And this is Sam's desk where he'll whip out his laptop, and we tuck all that stuff away. We try to hide technology as much as possible. So this is for our girls who are outgrowing this phase, but I have you know, most of the toys I do not care about, but we love the mice. And so the mice, we love mice that are not real in our house. And this is their little mouse house. And so when my niece and nephew come over, they can have something to play with that's more their age. So I love it. It's very sweet. So the beams were actually here, but they were a very dark, almost ebony wood. And so we added in the, I think they call it V-groove. Is that what they call that? V-groove between the beams to add some more texture. We brightened it all up with paint. These floors are original and we love them. They're red oak. This is my favorite stain, which is half special walnut, half early American. It's just this very great, timeless, warm wood color. And I try never to do super dark floors because they show everything. So this is my happy medium, honey, beautiful stain.
There were several projects that Leslie, or several additions or change orders that were brought up that were, I thought, what are we going to do here? How do I say no as gently as possible? But what I have learned, and this is not just the guy who wants to stay married answer, she's always right when it comes to design elements and additions and change orders. As annoying as it can be to paint and repaint and change everything again and again and again, she's almost always right, and it's almost always the right thing to do. So that's not just the brownie point answer. That's the truth.
I paid him to say that. I bet you would say the music room floor was the most challenging, or what do you think? That was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. I mean, stuff like painting checkerboard on hardwood floors. I mean, it's not hard. It's just really tedious and just takes a really long time. But with that one, I wasn't upset about that because that was, I saw the vision. I thought that was going to be really cool. Okay. So I was kind of into that.
I feel like he has, you know, it's like after you have a baby and you forget everything. I think, you know, we both have done so many home things. We have flipped a few houses now. And so you forget pretty quickly. But I think that was pretty time consuming. And then also we lost the ceiling of the kitchen. We put in the kitchen in way too early and had the roof exposed, and a crazy storm came and completely destroyed the ceiling, not the cabinets, praise God. But we were not planning. We had already paid to have popcorn ceiling removed on that ceiling, which is depressing, but it was such a happy accident because we were able to vault the kitchen ceiling because of it. But Sam and my dad ended up taking down all of the random rafters and, you know, y'all put up that trim, didn't you, in the kitchen? Mm-hmm. Putting up the trim in the kitchen. It was a huge project. So
that was one of the happy accidents that took place was, so our roofers were not able to get out and completely make the roof watertight. We had a massive storm coming. And so we were living down in the cottage or the tenant house, the guest house. We were living down in the guest house while the renovation was taking place. And so Leslie comes in the door, just kicks the door open, and is just sobbing.
I did not kick the door open.
Oh, it was like an FBI raid. It was like,
really bad.
And she was crying, and I'm like, oh my God, someone's dead. Like there's been a death in the family. And she, like between sobs, was like, the roof fell. And it was so sad and so scary. But we came over here, and of course the roof had collapsed, or the ceiling had collapsed. There's insulation and debris everywhere. Thank God we had covered the cabinets. We had the wherewithal to cover that in, what did we even put? We put like some like leftover cardboard and like just tape and whatever stuff, but the cabinets were saved, but the ceiling was just gone. But the cool thing is that exposed the rafters in the attic. And so Leslie, being able to see that, we were like, wow, we actually really should just vault the ceiling. Because it went from like a really tight kitchen that was maybe 8 foot tall ceilings.
Yeah, it was really low.
To being this really nice, expansive vaulted ceiling, which really opens up the space and ended up being just a really happy accident. All right, so before we show you the rest of the house, let's go check out the powder room.
So this is the guest bathroom, but it's also our girls' bathroom. So welcome to our powder room. This is also our girls' room, so it gets a lot of heavy traffic. So even though our girls are younger, they're not young, but they're girls, we still wanted this to feel like an adult space since people are going to be using it that come over. So we wanted to really raise the sophistication level by adding this wallpaper, which my friend Maggie found. And it is absolutely fantastic. These pheasants, and this is from a UK company called Peony and Sage. And then we were able to reuse the original vanity, which anytime you can reuse something in a renovation, it is a very happy day. And the marble top was already on it. We just took off the backsplash and added this chair rail. Actually, the chair rail was here. And we added the beadboard and painted it this green, which I love, which is Tate Olive. And then we added this subway tile, which goes all the way around the shower. We ended up taking out, they had sort of a prefab shower kit, and we added a deep soaking tub and the tile, and then we also added this sort of retro penny tile. And then I love using vintage rugs as bath mats, and I just think it adds a layer of sophistication that I appreciate. And this was also my grandparents' rug. And yeah, we added the brass fixtures, and this is a medicine cabinet. I hesitate to show you. Oh, it's fun. Look at that. So they have made this look like just a little episode of YouTube right here. But this is great for storage, and that came from Pottery Barn.
All right, let's look at the rest of the house. Come this way and check out the kitchen.
The heart of the home. Sam and I stalked him, really. So we were both on this. It was before blogs. It was called Live Journal. Anyone? No.
For the 3 people who know
there
what
will
that
be
is.
someone that knows what Live Journal is, I guarantee you. And it was sort of the MySpace era. And so it wasn't a blog, it was more like an online diary. So you can imagine how embarrassing that would be to find.
Brutal.
And Sam, my friend Christy, posted pictures of her and Sam and said he's single. And so I went to his diary journal page and was like, he had this maroon, think like manic panic, almost like pink hair, emo hair.
So bad.
And I was like, is your hair naturally red? What? No. There was not even a shred of chance that it looked natural. And so we just started talking, and then we ended up finding out that we went to the same church. So technically we met at church, but through my friend Christy and through Live Journal.
Through the internet 1.0.
Yes. Welcome to the kitchen. This is my favorite place for us all to be together. And I'm so excited that we can share with you guys what the vaulted ceiling looks like. We actually forgot to tell you a fun story that when we did have the exposed roof, we found a snake in the attic. So we're very thankful that he was evicted and that we have this air and this height, and the light in here is just so dreamy. And this wood came from a lumber mill in Blue Ridge, Georgia, which was fun. And the guys, my dad and Sam, drove out there to get the wood. And my favorite cabinet, guys, is Costilli Cabinetry. And Costia is an artist. And so my friend Maggie that helped me with the kitchen, we gave him sort of the bones of what we were looking for, and he came up with this. And I think we changed one thing. We moved the refrigerator to be closer to the living room. And so we reversed the oven and the fridge, but otherwise he nailed it, totally nailed it. And I love that it's sort of this English country style. And we did this creamy white, which I think is really nice. And then he also created these shelves, which everyone asks about on the coffee bar, and they're so fabulous, and I feel really lucky to have them. And I saw these shelves almost identical in Architectural Digest and was like, please, can you make these? So he did. And it's so great. We have all of our coffee things here, but I also love putting out, we love East Fork pottery, so we've got a bunch of that, and it's just fun to be able to see all your pretty things instead of having them tucked away. But one thing that I have learned with many, many kitchens, my friend Laura, who helped me with my last kitchen, her dad was the builder there, and so she, would help advise him on different things with design, but was to use drawers instead of cabinets because you can store so much, and it's so much easier to grab everything versus having to reach around in a cabinet. So that was a great tip from her. She lives in England, so she knows what I love. And we just recently got these copper jello molds to hang around underneath the hood. My friend Danielle thrifted several of these, and then I found one of them on eBay, and I just think they're so happy. And because we're in the country, one of the not so fun things is that we do not have natural gas. So my friend Allison told us about an immersion stove. Induction. Thank you. Induction stovetop, which is preferred by a lot of chefs because it heats up very, very quickly and it cools off very, very quickly. So if you have to use an electric option, highly recommend this. It has been great. And then instead of doing a range, because again, we don't have gas, we decided to do a double oven, which I think has been, we use it all the time.
Yes, once a week at least.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to have that. This is our first ever double oven, very fancy. And then these are appliance garages as well as storage. So we keep our vases and things like that up top that we don't use every day. Scared to show you what this might look like. But we have, close very quickly, we have our KitchenAid in there. We have a blender in there and a bunch of other just electronics that you don't necessarily want on your countertop. So that frees up space, but we also have outlets built in behind, so we can just leave them plugged in and just pull them out. Has been very, very nice. I love a pot filler. I am new to the pot filler world, but it is so amazing to just have your pot when you're making your pasta and just fill it up with water. And we also use it to clean the cast iron, to just like let them soak. We're big cast iron people. So that is a great thing to have. Another great thing to have in your kitchen, if you can do it, are these built-ins for your cookie trays and all that sort of thing. Just get some all out of the way. I love organization, even though I'm not organized. So it is really nice to have. And then we did panel ready appliances, which has been an adventure because when we bought these products, nothing was in stock. So this was 2021. So it took us a year to get the fridge and a year to get the dishwasher. But it's so nice because they look like the rest of the cabinets. These are from Renovation. I just love that it looks very vintage and lifted. Sam is definitely the chef in the house. We would all be eating mixed nuts and frozen waffles if it were up to me. So we are so grateful for him.
I'm not a baker at all, but
Yes, he is.
I do love making sourdough bread.
So
Yeah.
he made that. He is a baker, despite what he says. He makes amazing not sourdough, but homemade tortillas. I would say your tacos are everyone's favorite.
Yeah. Tacos. I love tacos. Chili. I'm pretty proud of my chili.
Sam's a one-pot meal kind of guy.
I'm a bowl kind of guy. Like,
He's
you can
a
put your
bowl.
food
Meat
in a
bowl,
bowl.
specifically.
Bowls of meat. That's
That is specific
bowls of meat. That's what I'm into.
to Sam. But he also makes every single morning sourdough, bacon, and eggs for me and the girls. And I look forward to that every day with my coffee. It is a gift. So this light came from England once again, but this is Alice Palmer & Co. I get questions about this light constantly. She ships these beautiful pendants, these fabric covered pendants, and then I just used an Amazon, kit to make it light up. This table, my friend Maggie found, it was from a boutique and they were selling it off. It was like a merchandising, situation. And so I think it's so fabulous. But the first time we ate on it, it did break in half. But Sam fixed it. I'm telling you, every day is an adventure. Okay, and then these chairs, which I am obsessed with, also came from that estate sale that we mentioned. And it's hand painted. They're so cool and unique. I've never seen anything like them before. And then this china cabinet, my artist grandfather, who more of his paintings you can see in here, and his father made this china cabinet. So he was also into furniture making. At one point, their house looked like Versailles. So they went through several phases with home design, my grandparents. But one of the biggest changes we made was there was a giant metal building right next to us. So it completely obstructed the view of the land.
So when she says giant, it was like 60 feet by 50 feet. It was, yes. I mean, you could probably fit 10 cars in there. I mean, it was huge, massive room.
And so the amazing men that helped us with our floors actually came and hand deassembled that structure, that building, and took it with them.
Yeah. So they wanted
Which
to use it.
was such a gift for us.
Yes, they wanted to use it as their workshop. We wanted it gone because you really couldn't see anything other than the building. So they came and disassembled it in one afternoon and hauled it off. And
yes. The only challenge with that was that it left a giant concrete pad, which was an enormous task to get rid of.
So to remove that, me and my father-in-law, we got a jackhammer, and we thought we were just going to use a jackhammer to take this thing up.
We
and
were really ambitious.
Like 8 hours, and this was like in August, right? It was like,
very hot.
God, it was so hot, and it was August, and we're jackhammering for 2 days, and we got like a tenth of it done, and we're like, this is not going to work.
Yeah, so we hired
an excavator who did it in 5 minutes.
He was amazing. So ask for help. That's another
Ask
tip.
for help.
That's another
Ask for
tip.
help.
I think the most important thing in a kitchen is the working triangle. So making sure that you have very easy access to the sink and the stove and the dishwasher. Because when you complicate things in the kitchen, it makes it much harder to move around. So I highly recommend working with your cabinet maker. Typically can help you with that, with creating a design. But I am not a big fan of DIY kitchen cabinets because of that reason. And even IKEA, we've done an IKEA kitchen, which big fans, amazing quality. They have software that helps you make sure you have a good working triangle. So just making sure that you have that in place before you even think about the design is so important.
I cook a lot with cast iron, and just making sure that you have a place to put your cast iron that can hold it, because they can get to be kind of heavy. And our drawers are extra heavy duty, so that they can hold the cast irons. I don't think an IKEA drawer would handle that. So make sure if you're using cast iron that you've got something that can hold on to it. So this room, it's not just a breakfast nook, it also doubles up as our dining room. And the cool thing about a round table is you can be shocked at how many people will fit at a round table. A rectangular or a square table, I mean, they're fine, but a round table, you can get so many more people around it. Yeah. And everybody's looking at everybody. It just facilitates conversation and sort of being together.
Yeah, and so when we host people, if it's cold outside, and it has been because it's winter, this is where everyone hangs out. The kids will sort of hang around the island. We almost always have some sort of, my youngest loves a charcuterie board, so she will be putting that together. But during the warmer spring, even way into fall, we love hosting outside as well. So we have our grill and our table set up outside, which it's nice to have the flow of both.
I have zero say. Zero in the design.
But do you want to have a say?
Absolutely not.
I don't think he cares.
I don't care. I'm colorblind, so I'm useless here. It just give me the paint and tell me it's good, and I'll do it.
He's a very good sport, and I am grateful. But you also appreciate design, and you like fun things.
I mean, I know, like, when a thing is pretty, I can tell I like it. This is a good thing. But if you were to say make this thing pretty, I can't do that. That's not me.
I would describe our house as sort of a rambler. It's definitely sort of a ranch style home, but we've tried to add some European flair. I love English country style, so that's my main inspiration for the design, inside and outside. But we also wanted it to be pretty traditional on the outside, so everything's a really soft, creamy white, which I love. And there's lots of pattern and color, which makes me happy. And I definitely stole a lot of ideas from the Brits. So we're grateful. I love the internet because I could see how they all decorate their homes, and it was very inspiring for me while we were getting everything together. Okay, so welcome to our bedroom. This is our sacred space, which we're constantly kicking our kids out of because they like to be in here, which I love. But this room is so cool. I did not have a lot of things on my wish list because of budget reasons, but I really wanted to do this cool ceiling, which is faux. So we actually, because it's an addition, this was not here. So we had it insulated first. A lot of people are concerned that there's no insulation, but we insulated it first, and then they went back and did the woodworking around the ceiling. And I love this big light fixture, which I don't want ever to be turned on. It is very aggressive. I'm a lamp girl. I want low lighting. Sam's always like, I can't see. But this bed was actually built by my dad and my grandfather, which is very cool. I am very sentimental, so I love all family heirlooms. And my brother and sister and I all kind of fight it out on who gets what. But this is Sam's splurge, was the fireplace. She really wanted this big fireplace in here, which is so nice.
Yeah, I really wanted the fireplace, but when it came time to order it, I was like, give us the biggest one possible. Because I'm thinking like this big, like romantic,
Go big or
like
go home.
English countryside fireplace, and it's way too big.
It's fine. We love it. He was like, oh wow, I didn't realize how big it was.
Oh.
But this is a double-sided fireplace that goes out to the outside, which is really great. And we have repeated the vertical shiplap in here to sort of tie it in with the kitchen. This is leftover limestone from another job project that my dad was working on that we were able to repurpose in our home, which I'm very grateful. And this was the stone that they patched into the laundry room that matched the tiles in there, which is very cool. But we love it in here because you can really see the water and the nature, and you can see deer running through the backyard, and it's just very peaceful. One other thing to point out is this estate sale rug. I love a bargain. And this was actually from a yard sale, but it was $60. It's got holes in it. I'm obsessed. It's huge, vintage. This credenza came from an estate sale, and it's actually pretty valuable, but I got it for $100. So I love a good estate sale find. And we used to be very anti-TV in the bedroom people, honestly, until COVID. And then we got really into it. Probably too into it, but we do love having it in here. Well, do not be fooled. While it is very neutral in here, I eventually want to put wallpaper in here. Gil Schaefer is one of my absolute favorites. And there is a room that he did with Rita Koenig, who is, you know, I found out about her through Original Domino magazine. She's fabulous. But they did this house for, I think, the founder of a jewelry company, but it is my favorite house of all time. So this is where the inspiration of this room came from. And they did this pink, pale pink Ditsy floral wallpaper. Sam is scared.
We'll talk about that.
With these really cool roll down matchstick blinds and these fabulous thick chunky curtain rods. So that's a goal. But right now it is very nice to have it nice and neutral.
We don't yet have window treatment, so you're very much like you're almost like sleeping outside, and
yes.
I love it. And like Leslie was saying, the sunsets out here are insanely beautiful. The sunrises are incredibly beautiful. We get to see nature running around. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's wonderful.
It's amazing. I will say when the moon is very full, it is like daylight here at night. So we definitely want window treatments at some point.
For sure.
But it has been so nice to just kind of live with the flow of the circadian rhythm in here. It's been good. So we have flipped and built and sold a lot of houses. And so that is definitely how we were able to keep going in the real estate world, which I'm grateful. Some of that was good timing. Some of it was terrible timing. We have learned a lot about buying and selling houses. I have shared online in the blogging space and as a content creator since 2008. So I'm a dinosaur when it comes to the internet. And so Sam and I work together doing everything now as a team. And he handles all of the admin.
I'm like the behind the scenes.
Boring stuff.
Yeah, I do all the
taxes,
unsexy stuff, legal, taxes, branding, all that. Yeah, not even branding, paying the branding bills.
But then you're also an incredible artist, a musician.
I mean, I dabble. I have a leatherworking business where I make all kinds of stuff. I've been fortunate enough to do some stuff in the film world, which has been really fun. But that has been kind of sidelined as sort of like a custom only job while we renovate 35 acres. Come to find out, renovating 35 acres and multiple buildings is just about a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. So Sam has been renovating our cottage since August. That's what he's been working on.
I would say the biggest tips for building new or renovating is always anticipate extra charges. You are never, ever, ever going to come in on budget. It's just not going to happen. And whatever your builder or your general contractor tells you the budget is, add at least probably 25% to that, and then you're gonna be close. And the other tip I would give is treat your guys right. Like if it's Fridays, order barbecue. Like and don't just do pizza. I mean, pizza's fine, but they get pizza all the time. Bring in barbecue, go get Chick-fil-A. Like if you've got guys here that are working all the time, bring them some food. That will change their day, and that'll change sort of their willingness to go the extra mile for you if you go the extra mile for them.
I agree. And we always had coolers
Yes.
with, Gatorade and water. I just think treating people as humans and really loving on people that are loving on your home
Yes.
means a lot. We became friends with a lot of the guys that worked out here, and just such a gift. So grateful.
Yep.
I think to adjust your expectations and to really know what are non-negotiables, because as surprises pop up, especially with renovations, which there always are, you really need to know up front what you want really to make happen, because all of those little things that you kind of want are going to get pushed to the side, and you want to make sure that you can get your favorite things accomplished within your budget. And I would also say Pinterest is an amazing resource for staying organized, for having everything that you need in different, little folders, so that if you are working with a builder or a contractor, you have everything to show them. Actually, you know what? Here's my number one tip is to print out photos of what you want the room to look like, the plumbing fixtures and the instructions, staple them to the walls of the house so that you have less mistakes, less room for error, because when you have visuals for the people that you're working with, they are much more likely to accomplish that for you versus just word of mouth trying to explain what you want to someone.
That's a great tip. That was, we had 50 print offs, and we were just literally stapling them to the walls. Like, this is exactly what we want this to look like. And it cleared up so much confusion before it even happened.
Sam and I are both bath people, and we would love to show you our bathroom.
Wouldn't that be it to
Okay,
be
let's
on the
stop that.
internet?
Okay. I don't know.
I actually really don't care.
That was
It's totally
way
fine.
too intimate.
Totally fine.
Okay, now we would love to show you our bathroom. Come on. So welcome to our bathroom. So the main inspiration for this room was Old Edwards Inn in the Highlands of North Carolina. If you've been, you know, it is very special. But they do these very moody colors, very natural moody colors. And so I found this brown and I just thought it was so fantastic. And we worked with Costia again from Costilli Cabinetry, and he absolutely nailed this. I showed him an inspiration photo, and then he added these linen towers, which again, we sort of repeated those vertical lines in here as well. I found these off of Etsy, which I think is a fun place to find hardware. Okay, so these sconces I found, and I just loved how they felt rustic and country, but still sophisticated with the lampshade. And one day I may switch out the lampshade for some little pattern or texture. But I do love them, and we have them on a dimmer, which is dreamy in a bathroom. All the dimmer, all the low lighting. We'll never turn this overhead light on, but it does exist. It is very pretty. And instead of doing a freestanding tub, we did an alcove because I wanted it to feel very cozy. And so we did this deep soaker tub in an alcove with this sort of marble top that matches the cabinets, the vanities. And it was a very big challenge to find a faucet that worked with this setup. And we did, but we ordered like 3, and I think we have all 3 if anyone is looking for one for their renovation.
She's still in that drawer over there.
Pretty sure it's in the drawer in this room. And then we found these cool unlacquered brass hooks off of Etsy. So Etsy is a great renovation source because you can find really cool different things. And then again, I love using a runner in a bathroom because then you cover the whole room if you have hardwoods in a bathroom, which is really nice because then you don't have to worry about the water. And then in here we did this sort of organic, natural colored penny tile, and we went all the way up to the ceiling, which I think is different. And I saw that on Pinterest for president. And I just think it's very cool and not something you see every day. And people have asked if it's hard to clean, and I really don't think it is.
A good brush. It's not too bad.
Little brush. Yeah. And we just matched the grout color to the tile, which I think has been nice.
Yeah, the key to a successful and long-lasting marriage is 2 separate vanities.
But poor Sam, because I end up taking over his as well. He's being very modest because I do my hair sometimes over here because mine is too cluttered with all my beauty products because we're trying to look 20 when we're 40. But it is so glorious to have the storage for toilet paper and bath products and towels and all the things. So it is a luxury for sure to have both. And we have literally had pedestal sinks as our bathroom sinks before, and that is a nightmare. If you're doing a reno, do not do that. Make sure you have a drawer with your sink in some capacity, even if it's one drawer. So that was a lesson learned early on to not do that. But yes, it is glorious.
So Leslie said, we've built new houses, we've renovated before. This house, hands down, is my favorite one that we've ever done. And it's honestly, it's hard to put a finger on why that is. This home, it feels cozy, it feels warm, and it feels lived in. You know what I mean? Like, because our first house that we bought, it took me probably 6 months to feel like it was our house. And then one of our houses that we renovated, I didn't ever feel like it was our house. And that's maybe a weird thing to say, but I never felt necessarily at home there. This house from day one, from minute one, it's just felt right. Does that make sense? And then my second favorite thing about this house is the back porch. I just love it. It's a big wraparound porch. It wraps around the entirety of the back of the house, and it faces the lake that's on the property. And it's gorgeous. There's no better place to have coffee than on that back porch.
And I would say I love that the house is all one level and just that our girls are just right here with us. We feel the tenderness of time slipping away right now, having a high schooler, and it's just so fun to feel like we're all together. But I also feel like it's very cozy. I know that high ceilings are very fancy and fabulous, but I've come to really love the lower ceilings, just feeling sort of held by the house in that way. And I'm most proud of this house because it feels the most like us, I would agree, versus anything that we've created before. And I think a lot of that has to do with using wallpaper, which is a splurge, but I do love it so much. And again, lots of color that we love. So yes, we really do love it. And I love being able to look out any window and see nature, because growing up in the suburbs and the city, you just don't get that. And so it is quite a treat to look outside and see a bunch of turkeys or deer. So
yeah, we have about 30 turkeys that will start on one side of the property and then just kind of walk their way over. And then they'll fly over our lake into the neighbor's property and then rinse and repeat. And they just kind of make a loop, which also, by the way, I don't know if you knew, turkeys fly. And it's actually kind of scary because they're huge. I didn't know turkeys
very
flew.
Jurassic.
Yeah.
I do think that home for both of us is, we really crave creating a safe place for not only our family, but for our friends and anyone that comes over. We want it to feel warm and welcoming, and like people can do whatever they want. If they want to take off their shoes, they can. If they want to leave on their shoes, they can. We don't have a lot of rules. It's never perfect because we don't want people to come in and feel like they have to be all proper, which is very relaxing. We try to create a relaxing environment. We try. We try to fight the neuroses and create a relaxing environment for anyone that comes over.
Yeah, I was gonna say safe. Like that's the word that comes up, is just safe. Like you want, like you're saying, like I want all of us to feel safe and at ease and peace. And again, like you're saying, like we love hosting, we love having people over. We just want people to feel like just a sense of safety and peacefulness while you're under our roof.
Yes.
And yeah,
and come as you are.
Come as
be
you
yourself.
Are. Yeah.
We're here for it.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Kemp, and welcome to our Colonial home in Brazil, Indiana.
watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, my name's Kemp Harper. I'm an interior designer and digital creator.
Hi, my name's Kevin Bowling, and I'm a realtor.
And you're here in our Colonial Revival home in Brazil, Indiana.
Our home sits on 6/10 of an acre in town on 3 city lots. The front door faces south, so we get a lot of that really great natural light all day in the house.
So in 2016, the house went on the market, and his mom's a realtor, and we were looking for an older historic home. And then we stumbled upon this one the day that it went on the market. And I saw the back patio area before we ever saw the interior, and I knew that we wanted to plant our roots here.
When we bought the house, I remember our checklist was a brick exterior and a pretty foyer with a staircase, and our wish list item was a fish pond. So when we walked in the backyard, we saw the fish pond and the layout of the house, we were sold.
Well, our wish item was a pool, so we settled for a fish pond. The way that I designed for this home in particular, living in an antique home, was to furnish it in a fashion that it maybe would have been, and just in keeping with the home's integrity. Lots of antique furniture. We implemented wood moldings and things that would have been to period. We hand painted a Harlequin floor through the back of the house to look like something that would have been there. And then I also hand painted a landscape mural that's in our breakfast room, kind of reminiscent of like a Rufus Porter mural that you would see in New England. And we didn't want to do anything too fresh and modern. We wanted everything to feel like it had always been here. So welcome to our foyer. You can see that we have this really pretty original banister and balustrade here. When we moved in, there used to be a carpet runner that went up the stairs and around the foyer. It had been ripped out, but you could see the markings on the floor where it used to be. So these runners are actually just overstock that I pieced together and then put on these pretty stair rods to put that up the stairs to give it some visual interest. And then along the walls too, we wanted it to look kind of like faux paneling. So I did a faux bois paint technique, which is just glaze and paint that you mix together, and then you use a little rocker tool to give that wood grain effect. So I wanted a small piece to have as a landing space when you walk in. And so I actually found this wall mount table and mirror at the same shop, but they were in completely separate booths. I saw this first and then I saw the mirror and I was like, those would look really, really great together. So I liked that when you walk in. And in terms of the way that I style and decorate, it's usually pretty simple. I don't like a lot of clutter unless it's a collection of things. So that's why I just have the simple bust on there when you walk in. Over on this side, I wanted something that was kind of striking when you walk in. We have lots of vintage portraits throughout the house and oil paintings. So this is actually a wedding portrait, and it was him and his wife, but they were separated at auction. We got him after the fact, but I'm happy to have him here. I think the coloration is really, really great. It's really moody and interesting when you walk in. And then we collect antique taxidermy. A lot of people get upset, but everything that we have is antique, and it's been passed down. So we have our little fox friend there. These candle sconces here are Italian, crystal candle sconces. Being in a colonial home, it's very symmetrical in its design. So kind of did the same effect. We wanted to keep that symmetry when you walk in the front door.
So this clock was a Christmas present from Kemp, and I really love it. And what he liked about it, what I like about it, is that it has a round top. We believe it's an antique German clock, and I just like how simple and elegant and timeless it is.
So this rug here is actually antique again, but it's a bunch of deer hides that were actually sewn together. And I just feel like in the entry, it's very striking and graphic, and I like the texture that it brings to the space. So right off our foyer to the left is our formal living room. So Susan Maurer, who built our home, actually had a baby grand piano, not the same one, but it actually sat in the same corner. We found that out after the fact of bringing this home. This is Kevin's family's baby grand piano that they passed down to us. But what Mrs. Maurer would do is she would play the piano and then open this window, and then the neighbor kids across the street on their front porch would listen to her play here. So it's kind of special for us to have this piece here, and we didn't even know its history. And then in the living room, we have a lot of antique pieces. Everything's a little bit boogered up. Everything's got a leg loose, missing a screw. But this floral Bombay chest I thought was really, really sharp. I like the patina, I like the coloration. And so little pieces like this, I think, give the space character and a little bit of life. If you walk into the center of the living room, we sort of laid out this space so that you could enjoy two things at one time. So I don't love the look of a TV, but we do watch a lot of TV. So to have a little TV moment was important. And then I flanked this cabinet here with these Hepplewhite chairs and this tiger print, which I thought was really sharp. And I picked these chairs up at an antique store for, I think, $150 for the pair. And I thought that they were really, really cool. And then flanking the TV is a set of two sofas in like an olive green. And you might recognize this frame. These are just IKEA. But I like the slip-covered, tailored look. And then we each get to have our own sofa in here. And then on the opposite side is our fireplace, which is wrapped in a black marble. We have a portrait here.
So that was painted, I believe, in the 1860s, 1870s by a gentleman named William Brewster Connolly. What I've learned about him is that he fought in the Civil War and then moved to Michigan and opened an art school. So this is, we are presuming to be his self-portrait. When we bought this work at an antique shop in Indianapolis, they told us it was unsigned. But if you look at it really closely with a flashlight, you can make out his signature. So we thought it was pretty cool to learn a little bit more about the mystery man in one of our oil paintings.
We do turn on this fireplace a lot. And that was another reason for bringing the sofas into the center of the room, is so that we could enjoy the fireplace. And it is nice when we host people at the house because it can seat a lot of people in here very comfortably, and you can enjoy the fire and the TV at the same time. And then this little tufted ottoman, I think that this was just Amazon, and I like to collect different coffee table books. So just stacks of coffee table books, keeping it really simple. All of these linen draperies throughout. I did this Greek key trim that I sewed on there myself to give them more of like a designer look. On the opposite side of the room is this cabinet, but it's actually a secretary desk that opens up. And then again, we have, I bought this at the same lot as the Hepplewhite chairs, this little tiger print bench I thought was really cute. And then this cabinet is actually filled with old law books that came from Illinois. A lady had posted them to Facebook Marketplace. She was actually just gonna burn them all. And so I think I brought home 4 truck bed loads of books, and you'll see them throughout the house, in the library and other rooms. But I like the leather bound books, and I like how regal they look and feel in this cabinet. And then I also collect Staffordshire. So the little Staffordshire dogs up there are really sharp. In this corner too, this room is so long that you can kind of plop in lots of different elements. So not only do we have the baby grand piano, but we also have a Victrola over here in this corner. This came out of the Holman family's estate, which is actually a really notable family in our area. So we're pretty proud to have it displayed here. This is kind of funny, but we have a record player, like a plug-in record player in the bottom that we use in this. So you can still have the effect and the sound of a record, but the top doesn't have the components to actually play a record anymore. Kevin plays a lot of Barbra Streisand on this. And then for Christmas, he bought
Christmas
me
music,
Beyonce's Renaissance plays on vinyl.
One of my favorite pieces in the living room, and another cool piece that we have, this rosewood table also belonged to Anton Holman, the founder of Clabber Girl Baking Powder, and the former owner of the Indianapolis 500 track. So this came out of their house in the south side of Terre Haute, along with the antique Victrola as well. And I just love the rosewood look. We think this is a 19th century piece. And another piece I love in the living room is this painting right here. This is also mid-19th century. He is a square painting in a round frame, and we bought him at an antique shop in Madison, Indiana. And what I think is so special about him is actually his frame. We were told that this is a lost technique called water glazing. So they can no longer replicate the pattern on this frame. And because he's that square painting inside of an oval shaped frame, we have no idea who he is or who painted him. So maybe one day, if we take him apart, we'll find out who this mystery man is.
And then we have pieces like these orange, I would say that these are Japanese lamps, kind of reminiscent of like a ginger jar or something. But I liked the coloration of them, and I liked in the foliage, there's that dark green that kind of ties in these velvet sofas. Over here we have our little dog friend, and I thought that he was really cute. He obviously meant a lot to someone because a lady from out of state was moving back here, and he was boxed up with the peanuts and everything and shipped over here, and she sadly passed. And then he was sold at an estate sale to an antique store right down the road, and so I saw him and brought him home, and now he means a lot to us. We collect like Staffordshire and other kinds of antique dog elements, so I think that he looks nice sitting here by the fire. So then also in this room, it was wallpapered over, but then I felt like it needed a little bit more visual interest, and the crown molding is original throughout the whole house, but I felt like it needed something a little more, so I added in this wood frame molding throughout the whole room. And this is actually just wood molding that I bought at a flea market for about $2 a piece. So I've always been a creative person, and that's what led me to a design career. And I was always interested in interiors from a very young age. And so I knew that when, I had my own home one day, and when we had our own home, that I would want to make it a safe haven, something beautiful aesthetically. And so this house was just the canvas for that. We were very inspired by Martha Stewart's Turkey Hill, and it was the big inspiration for a lot of things that we've created here. The other thing too is when you're here, we're in the middle of a small town, and it doesn't feel like you're in town. We both grew up in rural areas, so it was important for us to have a little bit of space to utilize because we are big on homesteading. And so we wanted the space to have those things, but also be close to family. And so this house just kind of fit the mold.
Welcome to our screened-in porch that's right off the living room. We spend a lot of time out in this space when the weather's warm. This is Katie. She is our rescue Wheaton Scottish Terrier. You can tell she has a really hard life with us here. One of my favorite things about the screened-in porch is that Kemp repurposed drop cloths and some piping into very cool outdoor curtains that protect us from the sun and give us a little bit of privacy. Also, for extra privacy, we created these trellises that are outside the screened-in porch. They were modeled after a 1930s garden catalog, some trellises that were available to order. So we decided to make it ourselves, and Kemp and I hung them up and planted vining yellow trumpets on them.
In the same fashion that we did the living room, everything is pretty much brought into the center of the space. So we did that with this outdoor sofa and these two chairs flanking it. And then we added all of these little lantern hooks. It's really great to sit out here in the evening with just the candles on. The sun sets off to the west here, so it's really great to enjoy the sunset. It's also completely screened, so if it's real buggy outside, this is usually the space that we spend that time in. And then we also painted the ceiling a darker color just to give it a little bit more visual interest and kind of ground the whole thing. I also like lamps and lighting in general. So I added these sconces here on the outside of the fireplace to kind of give it some dim, evening light. And it's even great to sit out here and read a book if you wanted to. And then we also added in this concrete deer head. Like we have the taxidermy throughout the rest of the house. He's kind of in keeping with that. And then this is also a great space for houseplants. So we've got lots of plants that are a little bit more shade hardy. I just planted some succulents in these pots here. I collect copper watering cans, so some of those are out here as well. So this is a little outdoor sofa table, and it actually, these two bottoms here came with a glass top, and I didn't particularly like it, so I found these stone pieces and just put my own top on it. And then I collect a lot of garden ornaments, and so Kevin brought home this little cherub here, and so I thought it kind of grounded the table.
So we come out here generally in the evenings. We'll bring friends out and enjoy a glass of wine and listen to music. This is definitely more of an evening space for us. It's also a really great place to listen when it's raining outside.
And a few years back, we actually hosted his sister's wedding here. And so while she was upstairs in our primary bedroom getting ready with her bridesmaids, her husband and his groomsmen actually stayed out here, and we just shut the doors off, and they each had their own spaces to enjoy, and that was a really fun day.
Now we're going to take you into our library.
So this is probably my favorite room in the house, is the original library room. The whole thing is paneled in thick original pieces of knotty pine. They're individual panels. And we kept them the way that they were in the dark color. I think that they're very period for a house of this style, and it really warms up the space. This space was actually Dr. Maurer. If he was seeing patients outside of the office, he would actually bring them in through the back portion of the house, down the hallway, and into here. And these cabinets behind Kevin actually housed medications for people. And when we first moved in, they kind of still had the scent of medicine, but now they are home to liquor. And speaking of liquor, this is where we set up our bar. This is a French chiffonier. It came out of someone notable out of Chicago, an estate in Chicago. And Kevin got it at auction. And I just think it's a really neat piece. It has like some gilding, some gilded paint on it, and then like some Gothic detailing on it as well. And then of course some more antique taxidermy, but I think it's very fitting for this room, so I like this antique goose hanging above that. And then I wanted this space too to feel like it was furnished in a way that it would have been. So I brought home these swan armed chairs, club chairs, with a matching settee, and it has this old-fashioned kind of damask print on it. And then this is also a great place to sit and read if you wanted to come in and read a book, have a cocktail.
I love how like dark and kind of moody this room is. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house. Like Kemp said, this is absolutely one of my favorite pieces. Belonged to Maestro Raymond Leopard, who at one point played music for the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret. So when he passed, we bought this from his estate collection, and I feel really honored to have such an old piece in such beautiful condition in our home. Some of my other favorite things in the library would be our original blueprints. We're lucky enough to have original blueprints from Burns and James Architects, who were pretty well-known architects in Indiana. They designed the old Weir Cook Terminal, the old airport, and a lot of the buildings on the campus of Indiana University Bloomington were designed by them as well. Also, after hours and hours and hours of work, we were able to locate the newspaper article from the Brazil Daily Times from May 6, 1940, about the building of our home, which we feel pretty special about as well. It gives us an inside sneak into the vendors and who they chose and the materials and finishes that were selected for our house.
I like a lot of mood lighting throughout the house. So these sconces I just attached to these built-in shelves here, and it kind of looks like they were supposed to be there. And then since this is more of a reading space, I like this like task arm light that you can adjust the lighting, and you can sit here and read a book if you wanted to. And then every chandelier in the house is on a dimmer switch, so it can be turned down, and it just creates a really moody atmosphere. So a neighboring town to us is the covered bridge capital of the world. And so they do a festival every fall. And this little table here, this little hall table, was actually hidden in a booth under a bunch of junk. And I spotted it, and I thought it would be, you know, very fitting for a room like this. And it was only $40. And then we were actually antiquing in New England, and I saw the same piece priced for about $1,500. So I was like, we got a really good deal on that. And then a lady down the road moved into a house very similar to this, very different aesthetic from us, and she was throwing out all of these gilded mirrors. And so she just gave it to me for free to get it off her hands. And then I thought it looked really nice with this table, so it kind of sits here. To me, this feels like a gentleman's room where you would have a cigar and a cocktail or something. And so the only bathroom downstairs is this half bath. So I found this little old-fashioned restroom sign with the silhouette on it, and I thought it was really cute to play off of this room. So inside there's a little pedestal sink with a jade floor. And yeah, I think it's in keeping with what would have been here. So this is our corgi, Peaches. He just turned 9 years old. We've had him since he was a puppy. And he rules the house. We call it Peach's house. And he's a sweet boy. So then off the library is this back hall that leads you to our kitchen. So we have a really small kitchen, but Kevin preserves and cans with my aunt. And we both had grandmas that grew up on rural farm areas. So we were both kind of used to that kind of lifestyle. And so we decided if we have the space, instead of having grassy areas, we would implement gardens if we could. So we just put in a really big vegetable garden. And then we also have a chicken coop, which is home to 5 hens and 2 turkeys. We, like, right off the kitchen, it's so small. We have pots of herbs and things that you can just walk out the back door and cut those and use those for cooking. It's a lifestyle for us. It's like rural living, but in town.
Yeah. I think that we bring the outside in a lot of ways. Whether we're preserving and collecting honey, or whether we're canning, or Kemp's bringing in fresh flowers from the yard, or we're bringing in fresh herbs to cook, or we're taking kitchen scraps out to give to the chickens or add to the compost pile. We think our goal is to try to really live kind of in harmony with the yard and have it work for us as hard as we work for it.
One downfall, in my opinion, to this house is the original kitchen is just very small. The house does circulate. You can exit both ways, but people do tend to congregate in here. So my original thought was to draw your eye up. And so I put in these faux barn beams that I made from rough sawn pine. And I took a chisel and hammer and roughed them up and stained them, and then put those up at the top. And then I ran some pallet boards on the other side of them to make it look like you're looking up at the old floorboards, and then added in this school light pendant because I thought that was fitting for the ceiling. So we did keep the original cabinets, but there is a place for everything. And we had this dead space here. So we put in this open shelving concept. This is home to our everyday dishes. One piece on this that I am really fond of are these are Libby Knickerbocker Art Deco glasses. This would have been for sherbet or a cocktail. I bought these at a flea market for about $12 for the set, and online they retail for about $6,000 for a set. And these are original because they do have the thin rimmed glass on them. So even though it doesn't look like much, one really important piece to me in the house is this piece here built out of my grandma's barn wood from her 1800s barn that I used to play in as a kid. And it's backed with the red barn siding. And it's really important to me to have a piece of her here in the house. And then on top of it there, this is the dog station. But then Kevin built that really cute egg rack there. And we have 5 backyard hens and 2 turkeys. And I think it's just really charming and country to have those displayed there.
These dishes are actually from the Terre Haute House Cafe. The Terre Haute House was an old hotel that sat in Terre Haute, Indiana, and they auctioned off all the remaining stuff from the inside of the hotel. And I waited for 2 days at the auction to buy these dishes because I love the look and the feel of that dinerware. And something else that was important to Kemp and I was to create that kind of accessibility. When you come into the house, you can just grab a cup or grab a dish and make yourself feel right at home. When we painted these floors, when we hand painted them, it ended up extending into the library because we just didn't have the money to do anything else. So once we finished the breakfast room and the kitchen and the hallway, it was just kind of made sense to just take it into the library and extend the flooring pattern.
And this portion of the hardwood was actually covered in green linoleum that was original, but it's that glued on with the adhesive. So we had to rip up all that linoleum and hand scrape off all the adhesive and then sand off all the layers to get down to the hardwood subfloor. And yeah, this started the painted floor trend, but actually saved us a lot of money. We didn't have to tile or do anything different.
Yeah.
So this here, when we moved in, it had an over-the-range microwave here, and it just wasn't the right look, and it sat really, really low over the stove. So we wanted to do kind of like a craftsman look. We kept these are the original cabinets, and we did add things to them, like these corbel brackets and things. We built this and had it do like a little bump out moment and to tie it into the original cabinets, and I think that it's much more fitting in terms of the look. And then I wanted it to kind of come out like a mantle shelf, so we could prop a piece of art up there if you wanted to. And I'm just a big fan of rabbits in general, so that was something that was in my grandma's house, so it sits there as well. And fun fact too is Susan Maurer, who was the original owner of this house, also loved rabbits. And I was told by someone that she had a rabbit oil painting that actually sat in this house as well. So I think that she kind of lives through us in a way. I wanted the kitchen to feel very cozy. And a lot of people on social media get mad about lamps being by the sink, but I think that they're charming. And these are actually vintage Chapman lamps that we picked up on the East Coast last summer. And then we also collect copper cookware that we use. So all of that gets hung above the sink, and I think it's really charming as well. When we moved in, there was just a stainless overmount sink here, so we put in this Farmhouse sink base. And then we did brass fixtures throughout the kitchen to tie in the brass hardware throughout the rest of the house.
So I also work at Panera Bread, and these are the breadboards that they use at an actual cafe to take the baguettes in and out of the oven to finish off the baguettes for baking. So when these boards get too old and they start to kind of splinter, they usually wind up in the dumpster. So I rescued these 4 and brought them home, and we just thought that they were such a statement piece.
We do pizzas on the grill, and so we actually use these to take the pizzas off the grill and serve the pizzas on them. Mm-hmm. And then I've even used them, I've lined them with parchment paper and used them as charcuterie boards as well.
One of the most functional parts of the kitchen, and also one of my favorite parts, is our canning shelf. So Kemp's Aunt Melissa actually taught me how to can and preserve. And so we have spent summer after summer just putting away green beans and apples and peaches and tomatoes. And we decided to create a space where we can store and have easy access to not only our spices, but also the things in the kitchen that we use a lot. So Kemp and I built these shelves into just what was formerly a dead space in the kitchen. And I just think it's a really beautiful way to keep things handy. Like, this is our homemade vanilla extract, our powdered sugar, and our pie weights. I keep tea bags in here, in addition to just a large number of jams and jellies and preserves and salsa, tomato sauce, apple pie filling, things like that.
So then off of the kitchen is our breakfast room. And this room is also probably one of my favorite spaces in the house. I love all of the natural light in here. Again, it's a smaller space, but we kind of use it as an extension of the kitchen. And so again, I wanted to sort of draw your eye up. So I built in this wraparound shelf with corbel brackets to kind of tie in the craftsman look of the kitchen. And then again, filled it with some of those old law books, just kind of messily shoved all the way around, but it really gives it something visually interesting. When we moved in, the walls were painted over grass cloth wallpaper. And so unfortunately I had to take it out, but I decided to hand paint this landscape mural. Sort of my take on a landscape mural. It's a little bit more abstract, but I liked the dark moody coloring of it. And then I went over the whole thing with an antiquing glaze to make it look, you know, just not so fresh and a little bit more muted in coloring. And then I was at an antique store down the road and I saw this little oil painting for $10 and I brought it home and it looked just like the mural I had just painted. So I was like, I'm gonna hang that on top of that, and I think it looks like it was supposed to be here. And then as far as furnishings, again, we have another brass crystal chandelier over this table. This table I also found thrifting. It was covered in paint splatters, and so I hand scraped all of the old paint off to bring back the raw wood. And then I really like these antique Hitchcock chairs. So you can see that they have like the gilded paint detailing on them and the texture of the woven seat. And I think that they just felt kind of country and antique, so I like them around this table. And then at an auction, I found this china cabinet that looked like it was supposed to be with these chairs. And I have filled it with our collection of jadeite. If people aren't familiar with jadeite, this stuff was actually given away at grocery stores if you would buy something with a specific coupon. Even at like fairs and things, you could. My grandpa said that one time he played a pinball game and he won at the county fair, and they were giving away pieces of jadeite as your prize. And then some pieces are important to me, like this little hen my best friend found for me when she was antiquing one day. But we love shades of green. That's why we collect jadeite, and you can see all of the green and the paint coloring. This too is one of my favorite things in the house. You can open it. This is an original Dutch door, and I just think that it's really sweet. And it leads you out to our breakfast porch there, which is another extension of the kitchen. So when you come off the kitchen, you can come in here to sit and eat, or you can go out to the porch as well. It's more of a casual space, but I will say when we're hosting, this is a great place to set hors d'oeuvres or cocktails up, and then it doesn't interfere with our kitchen counter space or what we're doing in the dining room.
Something that Kemp taught me that I love, something that's really important, especially in an old house with a small kitchen, is you have to keep people moving. You can't let people kind of stay and congregate in one space. So Kemp does a great job when we're entertaining of doing a dessert bar in the library and a cocktail bar in the breakfast room and the buffet in the dining room to kind of keep people flowing through the house and seeing a lot and experiencing a lot.
So then off of our breakfast room leads you to our formal dining room. I love to set this room up for like a formal dinner party. Not that we have many of those, but we do host Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve dinner, and we do set this table, and we can fit about 12 people around this table when the leaves are in. But this was a Valentine's Day gift from Kevin. These are Noritake. They're not extremely rare, but I really like the coloring in them. I like the color palette with the green walls that we've chosen to put in here. And then I have the full set, so I have the full tea service and everything. We just did a really fun deal with Williams-Sonoma where they actually sponsored our Thanksgiving and Christmas tables this year, so these glass goblets came from there. And then one thing that I like to do to make people feel special and like they don't have to ask for it is I do these little salt and pepper cellars next to every place setting. So you have your own little salt and pepper cellar there. And when I'm setting a table like this, I like to have an element of life in one way or another, whether it be a flower or a fruit. I collect cake pedestals, and this is a prime example of how you could use those. I've used these pedestals to also set up like a dessert bar. At Christmas, we did a full Christmas cookie dessert table with these cake pedestals. And I mean, this is just fruit from the grocery store. And then I went out and cut off some leaves of one of the trees in the back and layered that in. And it kind of, to me, looks like it's out of an old oil painting or something. And then off to the side here is this buffet table, and I also collect ironstones. So I have all of these ironstone tureens and platters and plates, and I think it creates sort of this very striking moment over here, all in monochromatic white. And I also am a big fan of Italian fruit porcelain topiary elements. So these are Italian fruit topiary lamps that I found antiquing one day for about 25 bucks a piece.
I really love this chandelier that we found at an antique shop in Indianapolis. It's, I think, 12 lights. We think it must have come out of a hotel lobby or a hotel ballroom, given how grand it is. We just think it really fits the space well and fits the large table. It's also incredibly heavy.
Well, and I think it looks too like something that would have been in here.
Absolutely.
The most important thing for me in this room is actually this table and chairs. These are Irish ringback chairs, and they're very sturdy. They're actually by Martha Stewart for Bernhardt. And if you're a Martha Stewart fan, you might recognize them from her first book, Entertaining, and you can see them on there. So these are not the originals, but they are a reproduction of what Martha had on the book that made her famous. And then Kevin and I actually met Martha, and she signed it for us. Kevin took this because Kevin has read this cover to cover. This has been how Kevin plans his Thanksgivings for the family. He makes pretty much everything the way that she did in this book. And so he brought this book for Martha to sign, and I brought the Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover for Martha to sign. So these built-in corner cabinets are original. They're on our original blueprints as well. They did have a glass pane door on both of them. But you couldn't really see, since I like to display things, you couldn't really see into them very well. So I actually took the doors off, and then I just filled them with pieces of antique silver and different things. And some of those pieces we actually do use, like the little urn champagne cooler. I pull that out a lot to use. When we went to Chicago for this dining table, but the same lady that sold me the dining set had this little folding table with this like antique equestrian picture on the top of it. And I thought that sometimes I set like a little bar up on this table, and I thought it was really cute in here.
We keep things casual enough to do buffet style around here. We definitely like people, like I said, to feel comfortable. I think that's kind of priority one for us. But we do host like a full Thanksgiving dinner. Christmas Eve, we'll do a prime rib roast and veggies and mashed potatoes, and we'll make traditional eggnog and serve eggnog in this big stainless steel vat that we put out. It's really charming. It reminds me of kind of the old school holidays that everybody kind of grew up with.
Yeah, I think that it's important. If you have china that's been passed down to you and different things, I mean, why use paper? Just use what you have. I mean, I would rather set a table like this that cost me nothing.
Yep.
And it's a lot prettier that way, I think.
Like Kim said, these are, Japanese noritake dishes, and they're from the early 1930s, actually. And I found them tucked away in the very bottom shelf of an antique shop. And they're really pristine. They're in perfect condition. And I view these as no better reminder than to use what you have, right? The people who bought these almost 100 years ago probably never used them, and they kept them tucked away. And what's the point? So we use all of our china, even our best china gets to be used and enjoyed by people.
So this oil painting here I found at an antique store in Indianapolis, and it's actually a Renaissance reproduction. The original was by Bronzino. It's a portrait of a young man, but The reason that I was actually drawn to it is because I love how sassy this guy is. I love the hand on the hip. I love the books. He even has a pinky ring, which I think is really silly. And then this silly, flamboyant, ruffled outfit I feel like is really fun. And when I saw him, the backdrop was almost the same green color that I did on the walls in here. So I feel like it looks like he was meant to be in here.
And now we'll take you up to the primary bedroom.
This is our primary bedroom. I fell in love with this poster bed. This is new. It's actually from Birch Lane. But when I saw it, I just thought it was so fitting for this room. I did a curtain wall in like a spiced rum color, which I thought was really chic. And then we flanked the bed with these faux leather ottomans. I like a big and scale ottoman, so you have a lot of landing space. And then again, some more Italian fruit topiary lamps in here. And then back here, I also collect these federal mirrors, which I think are really sharp, and I kind of like them in a collection here. And these bullet points that go around the perimeter are actually reminiscent of the first 13 colonies. So I like having them here in a colonial revival home. So then as far as bedding, it's kind of just like a high-low mix for me. Like we have a little bit more of an expensive down-filled duvet on top. And then I like a knitted blanket on the base as well. And then this coverlet on the bottom is just from Target. So pretty affordable. And then I like to add elements of texture. So I like these leather down-filled pillows with this little fur moment. And then my friend Blake actually taught me this trick where you can just go to Goodwill and buy an old belt and it helps dress up any pillow. I think that was an old Nate Berkus trick. Up above the bed, this is just an Amazon dupe. It's a knockoff of a Restoration Hardware light. And I needed something larger in scale. I kind of wanted something a little bit glammy to give it some juxtaposition from the very traditional look of the bed. And it is also on a dimmer. So it's more just like for mood lighting or like a sparkle light. But I really like it in this room. So then in the bedroom as well, instead of having another case piece opposite the bed, I really wanted to have a little sofa area where you could sit and read a book if you wanted to. So we have this little tufted ottoman with these coffee table books laid out. And then I found this really cool print when I was antiquing, and I think it was framed and everything for about 50 bucks. And I really liked it, but I didn't know where I was gonna put it. It didn't really fit going in the downstairs with all the oil paintings and stuff. But I also didn't want to give up the luxury of having a bedroom TV. So I decided that I was gonna conceal the TV behind, and I just hooked it up to a 2x4 with a piano hinge. So then you can have a TV as well. And then to keep this open, I actually put in a little door stopper to hold it into place. It's kind of silly, but yeah, so you don't have to give up having a TV and you can still have the look of art. So in front of the sofa here is just this little tufted trunk. I like to have a little landing space, and it's kind of in your walkway here, but form over function. And I think it cozies up the space here, and then you can prop your feet up too if you want to sit on the sofa.
What I love the most about our home depends on the season. When it's warm outside, I love the outside. I love the vegetable garden, the flower gardens, the landscaping. And when it gets colder, I turn in. And I love how cozy the interior space is and how relaxing and rejuvenating it is when the weather is not so friendly. And we kind of focus on inside projects.
What I love the most about the home is the intention that the original owners had in terms of planning and placing it. The home sits on an axis. So the sun rises in the east over in the breakfast room in the porch area, and then it sets in the west, which is over on our screen porch area, so you can sit out there and enjoy the sunset. And then the back sits on the north, so that's the, it's a little bit cooler, the mossier side, which is where our fish pond resides. I just think everything here, the original owners did everything with intention, and I think that they would appreciate what we've done. So our favorite part of the house and what sold us on the house was this antique aggregate patio on the backside. When we first walked out here, I didn't need to see the inside of the house. I was already sold. So we've tried to dress it in a way that I think it should have been dressed for the time. And so we've brought in these, I collect these Francois Carré. They are 1920s Art Deco. And we've painted them all monochromatic in this really pretty sort of jade green. Since we have a small kitchen, but the kitchen's right off the patio, I also collect terracotta pots. So I've got a bunch of these terracotta pots out here that are filled with herbs. So if you're cooking in the kitchen, you can just come out to the patio, take a little clipping to take in for whatever you're cooking. It's kind of nice. It's just another extension of a really small space. So another piece that I really like to entertain with is this antique bar cart. It's on wheels, so you can wheel it around. And my favorite way to set it up is with a Moscow Mule bar. So I have all of these copper mugs, and I do a little bowl of limes, and then your ginger beers down below. And then last summer in New England, I went to Nora Murphy's shop, and she had the cutest little bottle cooler with a little handle. And so you can carry it around. It's great for outside. It's antique brass, and I think that looks really cute on there. And then mint that we grew in our little pots on the patio. You can set it on there as well. And then another cool thing is when you're entertaining, the whole top comes off like a tray, so you can carry this around if you have guests sitting over at the table and set it down.
We're standing in front of the fish pond, which is absolutely one of my favorite parts about this house. It is an antique aggregate stone fish pond, and it's gone through a few evolutions for us to get where we are now. I purchased this beautiful antique piece north of Chicago. I just thought that she was really fitting for the center of the pond. This year, I think we're actually going to put some koi fish inside the pond, just to bring another element in. People love it when we're entertaining. They love the pond because it's a really beautiful space. I think anywhere you can incorporate water has a really soothing element to it. I wanted to show you our driveway, which is made of this beautiful Brazil, Indiana brick. Our driveway actually used to be the foundation of the house that sat in the backyard of this house. At some point, I'm guessing in the 60s or 70s, Mrs. Maurer purchased the home behind this house and tore that house down to extend her big, beautiful garden. And she wasn't a wasteful person because she, like I said, she used the brick from the foundation of the home to create her brick driveway.
And this was a big selling point for us. And then we had this garage here, which just had vinyl garage doors on it. And then we actually put on these garage skin veneer doors on the front. And then we built this pergola over the doors that I'm trying to train wisteria to grow on. And then our good friend Tim actually built a cupola as a Christmas gift, and then we topped it off with that. And I think now it kind of has the vibe that it looks like a carriage house. A home to me is creating an inviting space for anyone that comes in. We love to entertain. We try to make moments like that really special. So in places that we have like our china displayed, like we use all of that. We have open dish shelving that we implemented into our kitchen. So when people come in, they feel comfortable they don't have to ask, they can grab a plate, grab a glass. So just making people feel at home like we do here.
Home to me is friends and family, and having people over, making them feel welcome, making them feel relaxed and comfortable.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.